I don't care if it's virtual. And who else do we have here? Eva. Hi, Eva. You're looking lovely tonight. Robert Dixon, how's it going? Focus, nice to see you. And I think we're caught up. I honestly think we're caught up here. Oh, Rye Guy, until he dies. There he is. All right. Yeah. William, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm great. How about everybody?
Oh, dude, we're going to have a great show. Fantastic show. You know. Oh, by the way, Nucker, I do have my Vancouver Canucks pajama bottoms on today for you. Hey, Aaron, nice to see you. Ronnie over in Spreaker, thanks for coming on in. And we got William Lunsford here. We're going to have a great show talking Bigfoot and the Fouke Monster all night long. Remember, a great way to support this show is through the Super Chat, just like Ed Clador did. We appreciate that, Ed. Thank you so much for tuning it in and dialing us in. We appreciate that. And don't forget, if you're brand new, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so you know when we're going to come on live, because we do it every Monday through Friday. And give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. Neil Jones, good to see you. We're 10 seconds away from firing up this bad boy. Let's get this thing going. Let's get into some monsters. How about it? Let's do it right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. All right, let's get to this, shall we? We got Mr. William Lunsford coming back for another time here. Now, we tried to have him on a couple of weeks ago, but we had a little bit of a problem when he came on. You see, my community, which is pretty small, had the entire internet and the entire area go down. So you can't really do a show without internet these days. No, it's not old school radio anymore. Everything's all technologically advanced, but I'll tell you, we have one of the best when it comes to this great subject that we love to call Sasquatch. Now, Mr. Lunsford here is a gentleman who lives in Texas, and he has really, really seen some weird stuff. This is a guy who has had encounters with Bigfoot that Arkansas folklore has dubbed the Fouke Monster, and which inspired the film of the Legend of Boggy Creek in the 1970s. He's been chasing it for a while now. Is he getting closer? We're going to find out here momentarily. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I'm going to bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Mr. William Lunsford, how you doing, my friend? It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Dave, so much. Again, I'm humbled when you read that roll call of all the people that are there. All I can say is thank you and for being here and for listening to us and for giving me another opportunity after we had the little breakdown last time to all of a sudden I thought, oh, conspiracy, man, nobody wants to hear about Bigfoot. Is that our government that's reaching its long arm of the law in here? But, of course, I say that in jest, but I've been so ready to do this show. So, again, thank you, and thank you to everybody. I heard that Duke and Caveman are going to be on at the end of the week. I jokingly told you a while ago that's like Kenny G warming up for an Ozzy Osbourne concert, man. So, but I'm here to bring whatever I can bring. So let's get started with it again. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Dave, for having me.
Well, I know you are going to absolutely kick some butt and talking some monsters with us. You know, let's go back in time here and refresh some people's memories. Now, for you, you were someone who had an experience at a young age with this thing, and it scared the living daylights out of you. And I remember you telling me about this. It scared the daylights out of me as well. Tell us that story about your first encounter.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, my first encounter, man, I had been in this area that I had this encounter, and I had been spending time with my dad and my family in there ever since I was born, actually. And so one day, my dad passed away at 12, but I continued to stay in this area right here. Finally got my driver's license. I was a senior in high school back in 1977. And so I was in this one area right here, and I had been probably a week and a half to 2 weeks before the certain date there as I was down there fishing. And I had something that screamed at me. First, it followed me down this gas line, and I could hear it walking. And at first, I didn't pay any attention to it, but soon the steps became more deliberate. Well, when I stopped, then it took about an extra step, and it stopped. And I thought, no, man, that's crazy. So I thought, no, it's your imagination running with you. So I start up again, go a little bit further on. Sure enough, the tracks are right there. The steps are right there beside me. I stop again. The thing stops. I hear the extra step or two, and I thought, no, this is too coincidental. Now, we do have bears down here, and like I said, we have coyotes, we have panthers. And so I thought, well, if it's one of those kind of animals right there, I'm not really as worried about it because I've heard it before, and as a rule, they just tend to front you and let you know they're there, then they go on their merry way. But this was different because it was so much heavier. So anyway, I kind of pick up my steps a little bit, kind of in a jog, and as I do, then pretty soon it catches up beside me, and you hear boom, 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 coming beside me there in the woods there. Well, like I said, that kind of right there let me know, hey, this thing is paying attention to me. It's not just something that's happening here. So I took off pretty much on just a dead run. And as I did, this thing got down there. We got to where I had to cross this creek, and whenever I got to a little ford on this creek, this thing screamed at me. And it wasn't a howl, it was a scream. And it started from the very bowels of its guts and went up just as high as it could go. Like I said, I could actually feel this vibration on my clothes, and it was so loud, and it was filling the woods down here. So, man, I took off. I crossed the creek. Couldn't get across fast enough. There were snakes. Snakes didn't matter as far because I knew snake was going to be a whole lot less than what this was. I was fixing to face if I didn't get down there. Well, I crossed the creek, get back there where my vehicle is. I see nothing. And I thought, oh man, your imagination ran with you. Like I said, it's a bear, panther. There's nothing to it. So I go that night and get me a Bowie knife, and I throw it in my tackle box. And I'm like, man, I've done taking care of this situation. Well, then that day that I was down there, I had gotten off early. My teacher's aide, I had a coach for a teacher's aide, and he had to go do some recruiting. So whenever he did, I got the day off early. So I go down to where this area is, and man, within 10 minutes, I'm into my first bass. I love to bass fish. And I'm in my first bass, about 3 pounds. And man, I was in my element. That was something that I did that 100%, one thing that I enjoyed the most, one thing where I didn't have any fears or anything like that. But that was soon to change because I got down this gas line. This gas line was lined on both sides of gravel pits, or what they call borrow pits, that they used to get the gravel out to make the roads and stuff like that. And so as I'm starting to walk down these gravel pits, I pick up a very distinct smell, and it was a smell, and roadkill was not anything that was unusual to me. But this was a different kind of smell, and it was really, really bad. I said, really, really rancid. And I sit there and I thought, well, maybe it's just something has been killed, something has died, and I kind of tried to dismiss it. Well, the further I got down this gas line, the worse the smell became. And so, again, as I fished along there a little ways there, then finally got to one place where I had to cross this gas line. And as I crossed this gas line, I looked over and noticed a shadow on the left-hand side of this road, a place that we call the crossroads there. Well, I'm sitting there looking, and I knew something wasn't right. I had that sixth sense that you get, like not necessarily when something is watching you, but you know that something is wrong. And so I stopped and I surveyed my surroundings and everything else like that. And I thought, man, your imagination, you're thinking about last week and a half ago when that thing screamed at you. You're just kind of you're kind of letting your imagination run, and you're thinking back to that. So I tried to start walking again, but I did, and I stopped. I looked again, and I could see that shadow, but it was right at twilight in the evening. It was in the spring, and so I couldn't see very well, but it was something that didn't look like it had been there before. Well, anyway, I realized that if I'm going to get to go fish these last 2 gravel pits over here, that I need to go. So as I start to step a little bit further, this shadow over there begins to stand up. And then when this thing begins to stand up, it has a limb pulled down in front of its face that is eating leaves. Well, like I said, the limb goes back to its normal spot, and then this shadow continues to stand up. And whenever it does, I realize it is an animal or a creature, and it's black. It walks out in the road that I'm in front of there, that I'm going down there, and it walks out on 2 feet, and it stops right in the middle, and it turns and faces me, and it just begins to teeter from one foot to another and just looking at me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that a bear? And a bear in itself would have been bad enough, because all I had was a knife and a tackle box and a rod and reel. But it wasn't a bear. And I thought, man, well, maybe that's a sloth. Well, no, because like I said, we don't have sloths here in Arkansas. Of course, the thought of it being a man in a suit wasn't even close, because I was 2 miles into the woods, had to walk back there. It was bad enough for me, but somebody trying to play a joke on me in a costume, plus being in Arkansas where most people are armed, that's not the safest thing to do. So anyway, this thing sits there and stares at me, and I realize that I'm looking at what was called the Fouke Monster. Well, this was a creature that back in 1971 had a series of appearances here in the little town of Fouke, Arkansas. Fouke is right there in the southwest corner of the state, right there. The population, I think, is about 890 something, other like that, right there. And the claim to fame, this animal that's called the Fouke Monster. Whenever this thing began to appear, at first it had a series where it was at a place called the Ford House, right there off of Highway 71. And there was a young newlywed family, 25 years and less, that lived there. Well, the thing had begun to come around their house. It was sticking its hand through the window trying to get the ladies. It was leaving scratch marks on the porch, and it was doing this on several nights. So they had actually gone and talked to the landlord down there, and the landlord was agreed to give him a gun. So this night, this thing comes around the house. It reaches in to grab the lady. Well, whenever it does, she screams, and here goes the guys. One of them goes down to the landlord's house, which is not too far down, gets a gun and comes back. Well, whenever it does, then the thing comes up onto the porch. Well, whenever it does that right there, then they go outside. The thing takes off. They think they see it, and they shoot at it. Well, when they shoot at it, they thought they saw it fall, but they weren't sure as far as it was being nighttime. Well, then the girl started screaming. So one of the Ford guys went back to the house to be with the ladies. Well, whenever he did, one of the creatures tackled the man and attacked him. And like I said, it was giving him a beating for his life. And like I said, evidently he put up a pretty good fight and was able to break away. So he broke through as he was running onto the porch, just broke through the wooden door there. Didn't even begin to open the door. And so here come the other guys. And then so he goes in there, and according to the movie, how true this one is, I don't know, but I think it's probably true. He's in there going to the restroom. The thing reaches its hand in. So after this happened right here, this was the last night. This family had been there less than a week. And so this right here was the night that they went ahead and decided to move. Bobby Ford, the man who was attacked, they took him to the hospital. I talked to the information director here in Texarkana, who used to work at one of the radio stations. And I asked him, of course, having had this experience, I talked to him later on when I was a UPS man. I said, tell me about Bobby Ford. He goes, man, he said he came in, said he was scratched up, said he was in shock. And he said it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. He said something I wanted to dismiss, I just couldn't because of the physical evidence that was left. So again, with this creature right here, I realize I'm looking at what is called the Fouke Monster when I'm down here in these gravel pits, and I'm 2 miles off the road by myself right there. So he sits there and he teeters and he looks at me, and I sit there and looked at him, and my first thought was, this is how I'm going to die. And there's no way you make peace with anything whenever you become in touch with your own mortality. So the first thing, I thought was, Lord, look after my mom, let him find my body, and so I'm sitting there as I'm looking at him. Well, then he turns and he walks back to the very tree where I first had seen him, where he was hunkered down below it. He reaches up, gets the very same limb that he had, puts it in his mouth, pulls off some of the leaves, sits there and chews for a second, then walks back out in the middle of the road again and stops. And his eyes are just black as coals, and he's about 7.5 to 8 foot tall. And again, the only thing I could liken it to was the wrestler Andre the Giant, because there was nothing that big. The original reports of the Fouke Monster was this thing was about 7.5 foot tall, 275 to 300 pounds. Well, right now I'm 275 pounds, and I realize just what a farce that was, because this thing is 7.5 feet tall, almost 8 foot tall, and it weighs only 275 pounds, no way. But that was the only thing I could compare it to. And again, I am hyperventilating. I am crying. I have at that time I seemed to wet my pants, but didn't realize it. And so as this thing is sitting there, and again it's looking, and I'm thinking I'm fixing to die. Well, the only thing I can think of is ways to get away. I knew I couldn't outrun it. If it was a predator, there was no way. But behind me there were some gravel pits, and I was a very good swimmer. I was a good athlete. I could run track. I could, bench press 400 pounds. I could, like I said, swim very well. And I had decided I was going to dive into this gravel pit and to go underneath the water and try to get away should it come charging. Well, sure enough, he goes to move, and when he does, he moves, and he all of a sudden pivots on his left foot, and he takes 2 steps, and he's right there at the edge of the woods. He takes that 3rd step. He's into the woods, and I can't hear him anymore. Man, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Well, I'm just ready for him to bust out through the woods. And like I said, I realize that I'm probably fixing to die. Well, finally, I start getting my wits about me. And the thing doesn't come out. And whenever it does, I realize if you're going to do anything, you need to do it. So I took off running. And like I said, I was a miler in high school. And I took off just like I run my mile. I just started sprinting as fast as I could, just as far as I could. Then I sit there and kind of went into where I just kind of cruise control, so to speak. I had to jump across a creek like a steeplechase. And then whenever I got up to where I was about 100 yards from my vehicle, I ran as fast as I could. I threw my rod and reel and tackle box over the gate. I dove through this metal gate, got my key, got in my vehicle, got ready to leave, started the vehicle, and I looked, and there's my rod and reel and my tackle box outside. Well, man, I was a poor kid, and this was a very expensive rod and reel. It was a gift that had a lot of sentimental value to it. So I pulled up to it, threw it in the side seat there, and then I took off towards Texarkana. And I was a mess. I kind of took inventory of myself. Again, I was still crying. I had wet my pants, as I said. I was still hyperventilating, and I was thinking, if this thing runs out in front of this vehicle here, I'm going to crash. Because I couldn't handle it. My mind was already in a scrambled mess because I couldn't put any kind of pigeonhole as to what I was looking at. I kept thinking to myself, did you see what you think you saw? And the answer was definitely yes. There wasn't anything else that it could have been. And like I said, with this monster, something I never believed in, something I didn't believe could exist. And then all of a sudden I have seen it. All the thing that was between it and I was air and gravel and grass. And it was probably 45 yards away, which it could have covered in such just a short period of steps. So I go home and I tell my mom. And my mom knows, she sees what kind of shape I'm in. And she goes, what is wrong with you? And I said, Mom, I saw the Fouke Monster. And she kind of smiled, but she didn't really giggle because she knew something was wrong. She goes, are you sure? And I said, Mom, I'm sure. And she goes, well, she said, son, I believe you, but I just don't believe I'd tell a whole lot of people. And so that's one of those things that when something like that happens to you, you can't help but tell somebody. You want to tell somebody. You want to be believed. You want something to relieve some of the stress. I know you said you have seen 2 Bigfoot, and you realize what you can explain what it did to you. Whenever all of a sudden it changed things, your security blanket. Mm-hmm. This world was a different place after you see something like
dude. When you see a Bigfoot or you see something that isn't supposed to exist, black triangles, UFOs, aliens, whatever it may be, it really, really makes you question your entire existence. Because much like you, William, I know for me, out of all the hockey coaches, baseball coaches, teachers, parents, friends, grandparents, bosses, and mentors, out of all the advice I ever got in my life, nobody ever told me, what do you do when you're face-to-face with Sasquatch?
Exactly. Because that wasn't something that was even within my reality. That there was a such thing as back then. The only thing there was back then was the Patterson-Gimlin film, so to speak. In the Patterson-Gimlin film, everybody has seen that. It's I think probably in a tie as with the second most watched piece of film besides the Zapruder film of John F. Kennedy getting shot. Other than that, and then it's one of those deals where everybody has an opinion on it. Is the Patterson-Gimlin film real? Is it fake? But it's been seen all over the world. And that at that time in 1977 when this happened, like I said, that was 1967. So it's been 10 years. And then the Fouke Monster story came out in 1971 when it was having all these appearances there around town. And then 1972 and 3, Charles B. Pierce came out with what was the movie that was called The Legend of Boggy Creek. That movie it took $160,000 to make. He had to borrow the money from a local trailer manufacturer here in Texarkana, and it made over 20 million bucks. Now that's a pretty good investment. If I could do that, I'd shell out the 160,000 now, get my 20 million and go. But anyway, he made a movie out of that, and he was actually a weatherman for a local radio station. But it turned out to be, like I said, one of the most revered Bigfoot films that there has ever been made, and it's affected many of us who hunt Bigfoot. It's just recently been redone in Blu-ray there, and it's a lot better than what the original was. But again, it was one of those movies that had an effect. It was on at the drive-in. It was a great drive-in when you took your girlfriend to the drive-in because she gets scared and you snuggle up and and you eat popcorn. But if it's happened to you, I saw it one time there. And after 1977, even then, it just made me to the point that I couldn't watch it all the way through because it brought back such memories. So as you said, nobody told me of all the administrators, of all the coaches, of all the people who had given me counseling, what to do when you see a Bigfoot, especially when it's something that you don't believe in. So it shook me up really, really bad. And it wasn't until about 8 years later after that that I have another encounter on a place called Mercer Bayou. Mercer Bayou it's about probably a 14 or 15 mile long bayou that runs off of Sulphur River itself. Sulphur River is the catalyst here in Texas and Arkansas for most Bigfoot sightings. And so Mercer Bayou runs off of Sulphur River. And so I had my nephew down there. I had just got a new boat, and we were all both excited about going fishing. Some people had dropped off a bunch of catfish heads there on the bank that were dead, and the sun was ripening it really, really well, and it stank like crazy. So when we got down there, we just didn't pay it much attention. We left and went on fishing. Well, we came back about what I call dark 30, a little bit after dark, where we were the only ones in the parking lot. You could still see a little bit. You had a little bit of your vision without having to use your flashlight. I go and get my truck. I back the boat down. My nephew's holding on to the boat there with a rope there at the ramp. As I pull the boat onto the trailer then and pull up, I'm not in any hurry, man. We've had a good time. We caught a lot of fish. We've been out in the outdoors. What is better than being in the outdoors? And while we're sitting there and I'm getting ready to put my stuff up, all of a sudden in the corner of this ramp and the corner of this ramp's parking lot where we were, this thing over just, again, the same scream that I'd heard 8 years before, just let you have it. But I've got an 8-year-old kid with me. I looked over there and I saw the shadow stand up and take off running, and I hollered at him. I said, "Chris, get in the truck." He goes, "What was that?" I said, "Chris, get in the truck." He goes, "What?" I said, "Get in the truck." So he got in the truck. I didn't even tie my boat down. I drove about a mile, got back to a more populated thoroughfare there, and then I tied my boat down and I went home. Well, after that, I realized that these things, it wasn't just a one-time encounter, the first one that I had, that these things were real. There was evidently a population of them in the places that I like to hang out. We were going to have run-ins, and so if I was going to have those run-ins, I was going to learn more about it. So I could have some kind of control in that. That's exactly what I'd done in 1977. I had gone to the libraries there and tried to learn more about this creature, but there wasn't that much in 77. Again, like I said, Patterson, Gimlin, just a little bit otherwise, and that was it. But now, back here in this, I think it's 1985, and so then there's a little bit more. So then I start spending more and more time looking, and sure enough, start realizing that I'm not the only one that's had this encounter. These kind of creatures have been around since about 1829, I think it was. And so, and then that was in Georgia. And then the next one, believe it or not, here in the United States, they say was in Arkansas. And instead, we'd all think, every time we think of Bigfoot, we think of California, we think of Bluff Creek, we think of Oregon, we think of Washington. But as far as for documented sightings that we can find, there may have been one in South Carolina about the 1790s or something like that. But other than that, it was right here in Middle America, right here around Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, and all these swamps. And so I wasn't really ready to deal with that. But once I find that out, then I start learning more and more about it, because I'm going to have something to do with it, I hope. So if you've heard that story again, folks, I apologize, but that's kind of the background of how I ended up getting started. And once I saw one and then saw the second one, as stupid as it sounds, I want to see a third one, and which makes no sense whatsoever. Go ahead.
All right, William, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Wow, I can't believe how close that would be. I was within 100 feet. I don't know how I would react to being a young kid coming face to face with Sasquatch. We're going to get into more stories with William Lunsford about the Fouke Monster, Bigfoot, the Beast of Boggy Creek. More monster talk here on Spaced Out Radio, coming up right after this. All right, brother, we're clear. I just want to tell, I know we got a bunch of new listeners in our chat room. I want to just, this is a message to you guys. Thank you so much for checking us out for the first time listening to William. I know he's probably attracted you to come listen to this show because he's just an awesome interviewer. But I just want to let you guys know that we do take commercial breaks here every half an hour. The reason why is we are not a podcast. We are a live radio show, so we have to time things out with our radio stations that are broadcasting this show. So that's why we got to do it this way. But we apologize on that end, but we promise you that we got William for another 2 hours of solid information here. So just sit back, enjoy, and we're going to have a good time tonight. Hey, Rooted in Gorgeous Sacredness, how are you? Vinster, how are you, buddy? Eric Files, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Really appreciate that. Eric with a K over in Spreaker. Did you guys know that we are Eric with a K's fourth favorite show? We're number 4, people. We are number 4 in Eric's world. Jeff Elder, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And who just came in? Chris Mo, good morning to you, my friend. How's Europe today? I believe you're in Austria. I think it's Austria. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm like 98% sure. And, yeah. So, sorry about that, William.
We're good.
Right on.
I'm amazed at the number of people that you have that listen to your show, man. And hopefully we're going to make this now. We're going to make this to where we're number 3 show instead of number 4.
Oh, no. We were at number 5 at one point for Eric with a K. We were at number 5. We used to be number 2, and then we slipped down to number 4, and for a short time we were at number 5, but now we're back up to a solid number 4. That's okay. It's all good. It's all good, man. All right. I'm having fun already, dude.
We're gonna have a ball, man.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, we are. Hell yeah.
44 years is a long time to be doing this, and there's more crap happens to you by accident that can happen on purpose, and I'd love to tell you about it. We may be here till 3:30 tomorrow night, and that's fine too.
I'm okay with that. That means I get to skip my daytime job tomorrow. Let's talk Bigfoot. I'm okay. Gary the Dutchman is here. Remember, Gary, you're Dutch. Very, very Dutch. Anyways, just got to remind him every now and again. He's a good friend. Good guy, Gary the Dutchman. He's got a fantastic beard. Fantastic beard, too. Oh, my God. Do I got to warm up FAP isn't here yet to get that going yet. We got to get FAP in here. We're at 111 people so far. Let's see if we can top like 150 tonight. I'd like to see 150 tonight. Hey, Super Tim, how are you in the Spreaker chat? Derek, over on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, congrats on your portrait of Dirty Filth's art. That looks fantastic. Now, is that a self-portrait that he made of you, Derek? Please let us know. And let's see here. We got Penman and Sparkles in the Space Travelers Club, which is always nice. And where are we here? We got about 90 seconds here, brother.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm still wearing my ZZ Top starter set beard here, Duck Dynasty beard here, trying to get started here.
Oh, I hear you.
61, 61, you'd think it'd be too late, but UPS wouldn't let us grow a beard for the longest, so we had to keep our faces clean shaven. But I done got a little bit too lazy for that now, and actually, my wife actually likes it. I think she's because maybe it's hiding more of my face than what she's used to seeing, and maybe that's good.
I'm not going to lie. I would stroke your goatee. I would take my fingers and
Thank you, buddy.
I would just kind of go like that for you. If you were Gary the Dutchman, my favorite Mighty Moose beard oil still is Winter Blend. I cannot get enough of the Winter Blend. The new one that you sent me, the original, the Smokehouse, fantastic. Fantastic. But Winter Blend is my favorite. Jeffrey Green, thank you so much for the super chat, joining Mr. Catfish, Murray F., Andrew, and, oh goodness, who was the first one? Ed Clater for the super chats. Here we go with the second half hour, everyone. One sec here. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott, sitting up here in Canada while the Northern Lights show up outside. Yeah, we had a great weekend of the Northern Lights. It was just absolutely incredible. Incredible. And I got to sit outside last night and watch them. I don't know. There's something just majestic about the Northern Lights. There really is. But enough about me. Let's get back to you. I want to remind all of you that you can check out our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. William Lunsford is here talking the Fouke Monster, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and every monster in between, as he is based out of Texas. But, you know, he doesn't care where this creature is. He's going to go find it, drop an elbow on it if he has to, in order to make things happen. William, welcome back.
Thank you. We have lights here, too, that put on the show. It's generally Coors Lights and Miller Lights, and it's the folks behind it. But here, as far as that doesn't affect the Bigfoot right there because, again, like I said, the Bigfoot, the area that I live in, I'm very fortunate to have the number of animals that I have. I actually told one person there that I had seen the Fouke Monster, and they said, well, do you drink? And I said, no. And they said, well, maybe you should. And after that right there, I can understand the feeling because it was really a life-changing experience. Let me relate this. I'm going to tell you something else. Whenever it come time for me to get married there, this is how Bigfoot has affected my life. And then whenever it goes this far, you know that you're intertwined one way or another. After I met the girl that I was going to marry and she and I were dating, I knew at some time I had to tell her and her parents that I'd had an experience with the Fouke Monster because that's big around Texarkana around here. Everybody knows. Matter of fact, nationwide, the Fouke Monster is the number 2 most recognized Bigfoot behind Patty. It's named after a town. I mean, it has its own fan club and everything else like that. But I knew I had to tell her parents and tell her eventually that I had seen this creature. So one night, the night came, and we kind of got onto some paranormal things. And so I said, I'm just going to have to tell y'all. I said, I've actually seen the Fouke Monster. Well, I was actually ready for her dad to say, well, just get your stuff and go on back home. Be sure that you don't come back. And in that case right there, I thought, oh, man, what am I going to do? But instead, whenever I told them this story, my wife's mother says, well, I'm going to tell you a strange story. And they had just built a new home out there. And it was kind of off in the country. And the lady across the street from them was having a garden party. And she had a pasture out there, and there was woods all around the house. While she's having her garden party, she's got the chairs that the backs are up to the fence right there, and the faces of the chairs are facing her towards the middle of her yard. Well, she's sitting there doing her presentation. About a 7-foot rust-colored Bigfoot walks down the side of her fence. And where it does, it's sitting there just looking at her and looking at these ladies. It doesn't stop. It never breaks stride. but it goes to the end of the pasture, steps over a 4-strand barbed wire fence, and it goes across onto the territory into the land where my in-laws were in the process of building a house. Well, I knew after this encounter like that right there was too coincidental. This had to be the girl I was going to marry. So again, a story like that right there. But this was 5 miles outside of Texarkana to the east. The Fouke Monster was 20 miles down there to the south. And I had gone to college out there. Once I went to college, and I ran across a man who lived in DeKalb, Texas. And that's about 35 miles to the west there. So we've got 3 different encounters, and I knew by then this couldn't be the same creature. So I thought there has got to be a breeding population of things, and there's more than one. In the movie of The Legend of Boggy Creek, they say, oh, he's the last of his kind. He's so lonesome and all that stuff. No, that's not so, and I found that out for sure. So again, that's how I became a researcher, because I realized these things were real. There was more than one. It was a scary experience, scariest experience I've ever had in my life, but it was also the coolest experience I'd ever had in my life. And so I began looking to study. Like I said, worked at UPS there for 35 years. That allowed me access to a bunch of people. I had a route that was 65 miles one way, 70 miles another way, 40 miles another way, and then another 70 the other direction there. So I would talk to these different people, and at first, some of them might kind of laugh for a little bit. I would go up there, I'd break the ice, Dave. I would say, man, you people live so far out in the country. If Bigfoot don't live out here, it's because it's too far for him to walk. And some people would laugh and they would smile, but then every now and then you would get the magic response. Well, if you think that, then you need to be here about dark. And so then, sort of having heard that, then I would say something like, well, I'm afraid of the dark. And then you get, well, you should be. And if you ever want the chance, come back again. So again, that was something other that was seated in my mind. Other people are starting to see this thing. They're telling me the same kind of stories that I have been hearing, the kind of things that have happened to me as well. And so again, as someone who didn't mean to become a Bigfoot researcher, all of a sudden here I am. And then the more that you see the tree structures, the more creatures, the more footprints you see, the more screams and howls you get, the more addicted you become, when in reality, anybody with any sense will be running the other way as fast as what they possibly can. But again, it hooks on you. And like I said, I would love to. Every time I go to the woods, I'm retired, I get to go to the woods about 5 days a week. I want to have 5 sightings a week at least, but it doesn't happen that way, unfortunately. But that's what I'm shooting for, and again, trying to gather enough information. This is not about me trying to make myself to where I'm some kind of public figure. This is something that I want people to realize, that these creatures are real, that they do exist, and that what I'm telling you is the truth. And then again, as I said on our last show, truth is stranger than fiction. So, but I want people to realize that these animals are for real. Thank goodness there's starting to be some researchers now who are deciding that, well, this $1 million shot, we're not going to get it. So why don't we take this information that we have and start sharing with other people and see what we can learn, and maybe get this creature classified, and then, like I said, have it maybe some kind of where we can have some kind of enclosure like a Jurassic Park or something like that, to where we can see these creatures without being afraid or having to run, or the thing having to run from us. So.
One of the big questions that we have is, what is this creature? Is it a monster? Is it from here? Is it a monkey? Is it a great ape that kind of got caught? Is it something completely different? Is it alien? Is it supernatural? Is it interdimensional? Is it wild men that have grown over time? As a lot of First Nations people will say, that it's people who went to live in the forest on their own and they kind of adapted to their surroundings. What do you think it is?
Well, I'll tell you that's a really good question, and that's a question that a lot of people, besides the fact, do they exist? I'm telling you right now, they exist. It's not even a question. So the next question is just what you ask. What is it? The original, like I said, the one that I mentioned from Georgia back there in 1829 and Arkansas in 1834, that was actually before the Civil War. That was before Arkansas even became a state. But they were called, just like what you said, they were called wild men. They weren't called Sasquatch, Bigfoot. They were called wild men, even though the descriptions was the very same. Now, what these things are, boy, I'll tell you what, it's as good a question, and anybody's answer could be as good as another. I have a bunch of pictures of Bigfoot. I sent you a bunch of my pictures there. I hope they came through pretty good, but I have a bunch of pictures of Bigfoot. I have some that look like apes. I have some that look like people, some that look like chimpanzees, some that have beards, some don't have any hair on their face at all. Some have the cone head, some have the rounded head. So it's again whatever it is. They don't all look the same. So that's one thing that I'd like to clear up for everybody. They don't always look the same. But as far as for what they are, anybody that says for sure they know, that's wrong, because regardless as much time as what myself or you or Duke or anyone has in the woods, we still don't know for sure as a classification of what this thing is. So that's why that number one, that I do what I do. We talked about as far as for going into it with opinion. Going into something with opinion research is all just going to get you just one conclusion. And as a rule, you're going to lean towards a conclusion that you want it to be. If you go in there with an open mind, if you'd have told me 30 seconds before I had my first sighting of the Fouke Monster Bigfoot that a Bigfoot was real, I'd have laughed. But after that, right there, after I had the face-to-face encounter, then I knew right then that all the laughing I would have done the laugh would have been on me. So whatever these things are, they do leave tracks. They do leave scat. They do leave hair. Some of them have smells. They do eat. I have got pictures of what all a lot of these things eat around here. I've even had one, or actually two, that have caught an alligator and eaten the alligator. I found the skeleton and the scutes about 4 days after he got this alligator. Then last year we got one that this place called Mercer Bayou, the sun had dried it up to where it was just barely a trickle. And I found gator tracks. We were following the gator tracks. All of a sudden, out of the woods, here comes the Bigfoot track. And then all of a sudden, the gator track disappears, and the Bigfoot track appears about 300 pounds heavier. So I have a lot of pictures for what these things eat. So they do eat the things that we have, berries. They love berries and things like that. We had an area there. We had a family of 3. And for over 6 months, we never saw a single snake. My son and I would joke, call it swamp spaghetti. Why aren't we seeing any snakes? But they just weren't there. Then my buddy, one of my research partners named Randy Crawford, went down to a place where we had one screaming at us one evening. And as he walks down there by a little mud puddle, everything's fine. He leaves his tracks. He goes down there to look to see if he could find what this thing was that had screamed at us. Whenever he comes back, there's a cottonmouth that's laying on the berm of this mud puddle. And this thing had been pulled into. It hadn't been cut into. It had been pulled into and placed there almost like it was a gift for him. And he looked around. He thought, man, I better get out of here. So, again, we don't really know what they are. We know that they do, like I said, they do eat the things that we have around here. But, whether they're an animal, whether they're an ape, whether they're a person, we just can't say until we learn more about it. And that's kind of frustrating in a way. But then, too, it's also one of the intrigues that you have, that a thing that is this big has been around for this long and still hasn't been discovered. So again, that's one of the things that I really love about it. I've never ceased to be amazed at some of the things that they do. Highly, highly, highly intelligent creature.
I believe it is a highly intelligent creature as well. To be able to stay away from people, to be the reigning hide-and-seek champion, that takes a lot of skill. Now, on the flip side, I don't think a lot of people who go looking for this creature also understand how camouflaged animals can make themselves. I mean, I often drive through the bushes with my buddies who have been hunters for years, and one of the things we'll always say after every ride that we do or every drive that we do is, how many animals did we pass that we didn't even see? Probably hundreds. And I think that goes along with Bigfoot, too, this thing has perfected camouflage in nature. And I think it deserves credit for that. Why do you think around North America we aren't getting more sightings than what we are?
Well, I truly think, Dave, that I think we're getting more sightings than what are being reported. I know how it feels to have fun made of you, to be called a liar, to be asked what you were drinking, what you were smoking, to have somebody say, well, that wasn't a Bigfoot, that was one of your ex-girlfriends, and things like that right there. I know how that kind of ridicule feels. And once you get it, it doesn't make you real happy. Even anybody that has I've got a pretty good sense of humor. I can laugh at myself better than anybody can. But when you have people that are trying to be just vicious with the way that they are doing as far as the way that they're poking fun and the way they're being ugly and so it's one of those things that nobody really appreciates. So you just finally just do like what my mom told me. She said, son, I wouldn't tell a whole lot of people. Well, I didn't. I quit after that right there and kept it quiet for a long, long time.
But do we need that silence, though?
No, Dave, we don't. You're exactly right. We don't because man, let me tell you what. If anybody has gets out into the woods, these things aren't just where they just stay in the woods and they're not coming out. These things are coming into housing additions on the suburbs. There, people are finding tracks. They're finding encounters that have been had with their pets, unfortunately. But I have one lady that I know that lives in South Texas, and she lives in a housing addition. The thing comes up and puts his hand on her trash can lid, and you got the handprints on her trash can lid right there. Whenever it looks through to see what it's been in there to eat, so they do. It's not just something that we need silence on. We need to educate people that these things are real. Yes, it's something that we don't understand. As we said, the thing that can hide for that long. I have picture after picture after picture of these things, and the need they have to hide is incredible. They're behind trees. They're ducked down behind bushes. And as you said, you drive through there and you wonder just how many. Seeing Bigfoot is not easy. I try to train my eyes, as stupid as that sounds. Man, when I go like to a doctor's office or something like that, the little highlights book that you have that has all the hidden pictures. Man, I sit there and look through there, try to find those things. Also, you can get on the internet, and there's one on how to spot animals or how to spot deer. And I'm a deer hunter, been a deer hunter ever since I was a little bitty kid. I can't tell you the number of times I've had somebody with me and said, man, there's your deer right there. Oh, there's no deer right there. I said, you need to get your gun up there. There's a deer right there. Sure enough, they don't. And I said, you've got about 3 steps before I'm fixing to shoot this deer. They don't do it. Sure enough, I shoot him. Down he goes. How'd you see that deer? Well, man, you got to kind of train your eyes. It's not going to step in front of you and do a dance. You've got to look for pieces of the body first, body parts. Then you've got to look for horizontal lines in a vertical field right there, something that's running crossways rather than just up and down. Like I said, you need to look for differences in color and things like that. So once you start training your eyes, it's not just something you're going to walk out there and see one, but because of this field that I have here, whether you want to call it a hobby or whatever, I realize that the better trained and the better prepared I am to see things like this here, then the more encounters I'm going to have and the safer I'm going to be as far as that goes as well.
This creature is in so much debate on what it is. I mean, I listed off a bunch there. Do you have a preference on what you believe it is? I know I do. I think there is something unique and special about it. I want to say supernatural, but I'm not sure. And that's only because of the experiences that many people have told me over the years and what I've experienced too. So for you, where do you stand on what this creature is?
Well, so far for myself, I haven't been fortunate enough to experience any of the things there, as far as that might make them supernatural or things like that. Most of the things that I've seen in the interactions I've had, they can be explained away within the natural realm of what we have right here. But I have talked to people who I trust with all my heart, who've told me, all of a sudden I got this feeling that something was telling me, hey, you need to look here, you don't need to look here. You need to get on out of here and do things like that. So on that case right there, and then I've got a picture. I have a friend named Keith Crabtree. Keith actually played the monster on the Fouke Monster movie, The Legend of Boggy Creek. And Keith is just really recently, you would think he would have been a Bigfoot researcher all his life, but he hasn't been. He's just recently picked it up. But he has a picture there on his phone, and when anybody wants to sit there and say there's no such thing as a portal, there's something that looks like it's coming through that he has right there on that phone of his, and he showed it to me, and there was no way I could explain that away. Now, some animals, they don't have the medulla in their hair and stuff, so their hair doesn't, basically give it a shape as such. Makes it look like where it's, I don't want to use the word transparent, but where it's, not quite as visible to define the body shape. But on that case right there, like with the picture that Keith has, it's one of those things that you just can't explain away. So there's times, Dave, that you just have to say, I don't know, and hope that later on that we find out. And that's one of those cases right there. I just don't know, but I know that the people's character, just like the people back then should have known mine, that I'm not prone to exaggeration, and neither are they. Therefore, what they're telling me is real.
And I think that's important, though, William, because even though you haven't experienced it, you're still willing to give the benefit of the doubt because, as you said, you don't know. And yet we see so many so-called Sasquatch hunters out there really working their own opinion and not doing anything scientific in regards to trying to figure out what it is. Is that dangerous? Is that good for the field?
Well, it's a good chance for them to get themselves hurt. If you're in this field right here and you don't have a completely open mind as to what can happen, you're going to make a mistake. And when you do, that thing's going to call you on it, and it might not be good. So I don't think it is good. I think if they don't open their mind to what can happen, like I said, this community, this Bigfoot quote, I'm going to put community in quotation marks because, like I said, there's a lot of jealousy here. If anybody gets something, they get a picture, they get a track, all of a sudden people are running these people down instead of saying, yeah, man, that's great. I'm glad to see that I've seen one like this, or glad to see that somebody's still getting tracks. But instead they start running the people down. Well, it's the same way. So it isn't good. We don't need to have this kind of silence. We need to be where we can talk with others. I know that's how Duke and I got started right there, because has the same set of values that I do on this. We need to get more information and get this information out to people. Like I said, you're not going to get rich being a Bigfoot researcher. You're going to get laughed at more times than not. But again, if you're out there and you're an honest kind of person, you want to share that this is a real animal, and that's kind of how we got started. I've gotten that way with some other people, and I find some really, really credible people that are willing to share what they have found. And well, for that, I'm really, really thankful. And I've learned so much from them, and I hope they have from me as well.
We got about 3 minutes to go here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. William Lunsford is our guest tonight. Sticking with what these creatures are, we know that they are in every province and almost every state in the United States, every province and territory up here in Canada. You know, we seem to all have different names, different genres of these creatures. Do you think we're dealing with more than one species?
Yes, I do. And I can say that pretty safely, I think, just based on the foot structures that I have found here in some of the tracks. Dave, when I tell you I have found well over 200 tracks in my life, I'm not exaggerating. I went Tuesday up there to one of my places up here in right around northern Arkansas, and found 10 tracks Tuesday. Now, the rain had come and washed away some of them to where they weren't as distinct as what I wish, but some of them were just great. So again, these things, when you can get that right there, they're everywhere except Hawaii. Like you said, Hawaii, the only reason they're not in Hawaii is because the only wildlife that's in Hawaii was brought there by settlers, and it was brought as a game animal, more or less, for the Hawaiian kings and all the other things like that. So, but everywhere else, every province, every state in the United States, China, Russia, Australia, they all have their, down in South America, where they have their own version of the creature. So I think with the footprints that I have seen, I think that there's more than one species of Bigfoot. Some of them look kind of like monkey feet. They have the little splayed toe that sticks way far out. Others are what we call boat paddle feet. They're like a blade of a boat paddle. They're wide at the end. They get down towards the heel. The heel's still 4 and 5 inches wide. That's a heck of a heel. But when you look and see these things, and you're seeing these differences that are in these tracks, you're realizing that it could be the individual animal. But you see these the ones we have in northern Arkansas tend to mostly to be one way, and the ones down here in South Arkansas, where I live, around Texas here, tend to be another way. So I think it's a different creature. I think we have different species, and that's one thing I think that footprints will help us to find right there, that there are different kinds of animals.
Do you think territory has something to do with it? Like, for instance, in the bayou is much different than what we're seeing here in British Columbia?
Yes, I do, because down here in the bayou, if you've, Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana are just basically just swamps, especially where I live, the 3 states area right here. We call it 4 states with Oklahoma, but Oklahoma tends to get more into the mountains. But the 3 states here, it's a lot of swamps and a lot of mud. Therefore, the wider feet, it's almost like snowshoes when people put on snowshoes to walk in the snow. Well, the same way with those kind of species and that kind of habitat, the area that they live in, it would be more beneficial for them feet to have the, quote, boat paddle blade feet than it would be than just to have the long, skinny foot like that right there. So I think it probably is that way. Nature tends to take care of these animals as far as for what they need. They adapt. Whether you believe in evolution of the species or evolution within a species, evolution within a species would make it to where this thing living down here in the swamps and the mud would tend to have the more boat paddle feet than the other ones would be up there, say, of British Columbia or Canada.
So it's basically adapting to its own environment.
Right.
All right. On that note, when we come back to start off hour number 2, we're going to learn about the Fouke Monster, We know you've had an experience, but the Beast of Boggy Creek, we need to find out about this. What's it all about? What makes it different from every other creature that's out there? Because from what I'm hearing about this thing's just upset that it's a Tuesday or a Friday afternoon, and it has no beer. And we got to figure out why this creature is so angry when it's dodging alligators, snakes, alligator gar, all sorts of wildlife. Next on Spaced Out Radio with Mr. William Lunsford. We'll be back right after this. All right, buddy, I'll be right back, okay?
Okay. How long we got, Dave?
We got about 6 minutes.
Okay.
If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
All right, I'm back.
All right, good deal.
All right, buddy.
Everything okay so far, Dave?
Oh, everything's perfect, man. Everything's perfect. Who did that? Let's see here. Scroll up. Robbie Johnson, welcome to our show. Welcome to SOR Chat. Making sure I'm not missing anybody here. And scroll on down. And Chad Jacobs, thank you for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate that. Thank you also to Ed Clater, Joshua, Jeffrey, Mr. Catfish, and, this stupid thing. Why are you doing this? Why did that freeze? Uh-oh. Why did that freeze? Oh, well, we'll wait for it to. I know there's. Are you moving yet? Let's just refresh that. We're still good. We're on the air. And who else has joined us? Oh, hey, Clam. CD Squatcher, good to see you. Appreciate you coming on in. We've got about a minute here. Damn it. That made me lose all of that. I apologize. I just lost all the names to everybody who donated to the super chat. But I thank you. There's usually a list on YouTube that allows me to see. And unfortunately, now I can't see. So I'm just going to have to, instead of individualizing it, I do apologize. I'm going to have to just lump you all in. I apologize. Sasquatch, welcome to Spaced Out Radio's chat room. Super Chat is a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis. Hi, Virgil. Also, if you're new here, hit that thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Ring that bell so you know when we're coming on live. We're here every Monday through Friday. And Vin in the chat room has his famous 80s spandex on.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Revolution Radio. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Where are we here? Jigumbob. Jigumbob is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight talking Bigfoot, Sasquatch. William Lunsford is here to describe to us the Fouke Monster. Now, earlier on in the first half hour of the show, you mentioned your experience seeing the Fouke Monster. But for people just tuning in or may not know what it's all about, take us back in history to the Fouke Monster. What is it?
Okay. The Fouke Monster is actually one of the earliest Bigfoot that has been not necessarily documented, but reported and then documented in Arkansas. Everybody tends to think that because of the sightings that's happened in 1971 in the movie in 72, 73, that's when the Fouke Monster actually started. But the Fouke Monster, Bigfoot type creature, has actually been seen since 1908. We discussed on the last show there are some things that happened in 1908. Well, at that time, there were only 46 states instead of 50. The first Model T just came out. Mother's Day was just first invented. 6 years after 1908, World War I began. 43 years before that, Abraham Lincoln is president, and 100 years before that, George Washington is still alive. Now, to put that in perspective, that's a long time ago that this thing has been being seen. And most of it has been seen around the little town of Fouke, Arkansas. It was actually a logging town right there, probably 8 miles from the confluence of the Red River and Sulphur River. And of course, we know the Red River, what an important waterway it has been to develop in this area down here in the South, as far as the Robert Fulton steam engine that was going through Fulton, Arkansas. As far as the songs like in Texas, the Red River Valley, the Red River has been such an important waterway for this kind of life. And so Fouke is right there around where Sulphur River and the Red River come together. And there's a farm right there that to this very day is still having Bigfoot sightings right there where the Sulphur and the Red Rivers come together. As the last one I heard was about 8 weeks ago, something other like that. So this creature, again, it is a Bigfoot type creature. Certainly wasn't supposed to exist in my world, at least until 1977, because it screwed my world up. Because places that I used to hunt and fish, I don't go down there anymore, and I don't go by myself if I do go. Even driving around, I'm always armed whenever I go. Have something, like I said, not to kill, but to have some line of protection. But this is a Bigfoot that it was originally reported 7.5 to 8 feet tall. I've seen two down there in this Fouke area that are 9.5 foot tall, and their heads are about the size of a 5-gallon bucket, if not bigger than that right there. Their shoulders are about 4 foot wide. They're covered with hair. The eyes are bigger than silver dollars, and they're just almost just jet black, but they don't all come in the same colors. Most of the time, the color that we see around here, it's going to be a black or a rust-colored brown, but there are some that are seen around here that are white. We have some that are chestnut, and there's actually even been one seen on one of my UPS areas that was a blonde. So this creature has been around. It's got a bunch of different names. It's got the Boggy Creek Monster. It's got the Legend of Boggy Creek. It's got the Fouke Monster. It's got the Boggy Creek Monster, and the Boggy Creek Monster coincidentally is the name of a movie that coincidentally has a real handsome guy about 6'2" with a white goatee in there as one of the guests on it, so to speak. No, I joke in saying that's actually me, but it was actually a very good. It's a documentary that was made after the Legend of Boggy Creek. It was made by Seth Breedlove and Lyle Blackburn. If anybody keeps up with Sasquatch, you'll recognize Lyle as a rule. The guy who wears the little leather black hat and has the goatee is a singer for a band out of Dallas called Ghoultown. But Lyle he has taken an interest here. He grew up in Dallas, and he has taken an interest in the Fouke Monster. He's written, I think, 4 books now, but one of them was called The Beast of Boggy Creek. And I know Lyle. Lyle's a friend of mine. He actually, quote, discovered me, unquote, after a Finding Bigfoot show. Whenever everybody thought all the sightings in the 1970s had gone. Well, whenever I gave an account of mine, he came up to me, one of the very first ones. He goes, everybody says there weren't any countings in the 70s. No, that's not so. People just quit reporting it. So anyway, this movie, Boggy Creek Monster, it is a documentary that tells what happened during the 70s when everybody thought the Legend of Boggy Creek and the Beast of Boggy Creek had gone underground, and had gone elsewhere. And all of a sudden you have these people that have sightings. And so he's been able to go through and track down some people. Lyle's a very good writer, a very good researcher. And the producer and the maker of the movie, a guy named Seth Breedlove, very, very talented, very imaginative. And at first I was real apprehensive about being in this show. But after it came out, it was done in such a unique way, in such an interesting way. And so that movie right there is worth. You can get it, I think, on maybe Amazon or something like that. But it will tell you the stories of the people that was happening after the highlights and the floodlights went away, and what was actually happening with this creature that was still there. It was still being seen, certainly by myself. And so that's where we have this Fouke Monster creature, and it's still being seen. It was seen. The last account I got, there's a little place called Monster Mart. If you've never been to Monster Mart in Fouke, Arkansas, it's definitely worth going. The man who owns it, he has a big giant Bigfoot built on top of his roof. He's got a cutout for kids to go and stick their faces through and take pictures. He's got 4 bodies in there of these creatures that have been made there, along with some cypress trees, cypress knees, and things like that. And he does so much to help promote that and keep that alive. But also, people come in there as soon as they have a sighting, and they tell him. And so, and of course, he's very good to pass that on to me because he knows that I will go look at it. He'll pass it on to Lyle. and go look at that. But the last sighting, like I said, was 6 to 8 weeks ago. The person had it walking down the road there, just like, like it was fixing to go hitchhiking, except it just turned around and looked at him, and then it took off. And so that tends to happen quite a bit around here. The thing either crosses the road or else it's walking down the side, and it's not afraid of people. Most of the time it doesn't run off. Most of the time the people run off before it does. And this creature actually extends over about 50 to 60 miles towards a little place called Lake Erling. And I have a friend named Walter McClellan I met this year, and the way I met Walter was because he had a Bigfoot sighting, and his wife was brave enough to put it on Facebook on a little place called Lake Erling here in Arkansas. Well, people were just giving him down the road, and his reputation was one of those that is like any good person. His word is gospel, and people were making such fun. But his wife came on to tell the story. Many people were coming up to give him success and to build up what he said. Yeah, we had a sighting here X years ago. We saw this. And so I volunteered my 2 cents worth to Walter to get in touch with him and sent them some pictures of what I had. I actually went to there's a little bait shop over there where a lot of the hunters gather, and was actually to take some of those pictures in and show them to the proprietor. And he's like, I'm going to have to change my way of thinking. I said, yeah, you will, because this creature is real. So again, that runs over there to 60 miles over there. And Walter had his sighting just this year. I think it was in April, the last week of April. So that'll be coming up pretty soon. So again, these creatures have been here for a long time, and their realm is expanding, and they're very good at. We joke about I've got the T-shirt that says "World's Greatest Hide and Seek Champion," but that's the truth. They really are. They have this need not to be seen, I think, because maybe some of the things that have happened to them when they have been seen, whether getting shot at or whatever, those kind of things, that they have that sense that the good Lord gave them to where they can actually hide, and maybe they even realize that, hey, if we're seen, we're going to be in trouble. So again, it's a really, really an amazing creature, and it's most of them around here have got the cone heads. They've got a head, and like I said, the head's about like a 5-gallon bucket. Everybody thinks it's like a bowling ball. No, it's about like a 5-gallon bucket, if not bigger. And again, the shoulders be 4 foot wide, and the hands are like. If you've ever seen those black baseball mitts that there used to be, the fingers are like black sausages up there. They tend to have black fingernails there on the end. They have nails. They don't have claws, but they have fingernails, and they have got a big old round basketball behind there on as far as both of the gluteal muscles and stuff like that. So they're really something to see, but they're not all born. They're not all 9.5 foot tall. In talking with Lyle, several of the last few encounters that he has had reported to him have actually been about 5 foot tall. So again, they're just not all born 9.5 foot tall. So that's kind of a background of the Fouke Monster, and my last sighting was on October the 13th of last year, and it wasn't one of these big 9-footers. It was about 6 to 6.5 foot, and so whenever it saw me and I saw it, we had a little staring contest. They had been clearing the land down there where this thing lived, and so whenever it saw me, it took off running back towards wherever it had come from. But it was really, really neat because I saw it about 6:30 in the afternoon, plain as day, had a lot of sunshine. That's the third encounter I've had within 300 yards of where I had seen this one, including a gugway back on March the 1st of last year.
Explain to everybody what a gugway is.
A gugway is an animal that's they say it's from Indian folklore, but it's not a folklore. It's an actual animal. I wasn't sure whether I didn't want to believe in it because of the reputation it has. This gugway is called the whistling bear. It's called the face eater. It tends to be almost as big as a Bigfoot. The ones that I don't know of any that have been reported 10 foot tall, but then it's an animal that I'm really kind of new to as far as that goes. But they tend to have 3 toes on the feet, and they communicate by whistling. But they have got the worst attitude of anything except what's called a Janoskawa. And whenever they see a person, from what I understand, even from talking to my Native American friends who have that belief system in their background, that whenever you see one, it's either run or shoot because it's going to try to hurt you. So a very, very big animal, and the one I saw was down in Sulphur River Bottoms. Had never seen one in there before. It ran towards me, and then at first I thought it was a Bigfoot. It was on all fours. I thought, that's a Bigfoot, so I start running towards it. I actually have my phone out. I don't know why I don't have it on. I was down there photographing a tree structure that one of these things makes, and so therefore I was using my stills rather than on the video. But when I saw this thing running, I started running towards it. Well, then by the time that I got to where I took the trail to go into where it was, my phone had actually turned itself off. Well, as I'm running down towards it to try to get, thinking it's a Bigfoot and going to get a picture, all of a sudden I look and this thing is set up behind the root system of a tree, kind of like an octopus root system. And it's kind of got its head just kind of stuck between the roots, almost like it's hiding. But it's so big that it sticks out between the sides of the roots there. You can see it plainly. Man, I put on the brakes, and when I did, I had that phone out, I turned it on. I got 3 real pictures really, really quick. And the first one, it was staring at me. Then it kind of dipped its head, turned and looked to its left like it's had a hunting partner. And then it's the ears went straight up again. It looked towards me. And then I got the heck out of Dodge. And my buddy wanted to go back. A friend of mine named Randy that I have, he wanted to go back the next day. And truly, I could not go back. That's the first time I've run from a Bigfoot type animal since 1977. I couldn't go back. I wanted to, but I had that post-traumatic stress. Well, I only had a 40 caliber Glock, and that wasn't going to do anything for him. So coincidentally, my son had ordered us a 45-70. So I got the 45-70, went down the next day, and Randy and I went. We took about 50 pictures for comparison just to be sure that my mind wasn't running away from me, which is why I knew it wasn't. But you want to have that kind of documentation as a Bigfoot researcher or anything of what you have. And so sure enough, we get it. He puts it on 2 computer monitors there on his desk, and he sets it side by side. And there's no way in the world that it's anything but a gugway, this Bigfoot type of animal, except a Bigfoot, dogman, whatever you want to call it, where it has this bad attitude. Another man took it who has a very good system to where he can clear up photographs and stuff like that. And he actually took the picture and got it cleaned up. And he sent me a message. He goes, "Oh my gosh," he goes, "I've never seen such a picture like this in my life. Anybody doesn't believe in Bigfoot, everybody needs to see this thing right here." So anyway, that's what the gugway is. And I did not want to acknowledge it, but I had to, because if not, like I said, just because you refuse to acknowledge it, I don't believe the speed limit ought to be 55, but that don't mean it changes. And it's the same way with these gugways right there. If you don't believe in them just because you don't believe and you're not prepared, you've got problems coming, and that's not what you want to have.
I want to ask you about these creatures, because in your area, these creatures seem to be very aggressive, very challenging, and yet up here in the Pacific Northwest, it really seems that we have these creatures who are out there who are more docile, trying to stay away from humans rather than trying to, be curious or chase them out of areas. Now, I say that as saying that my friends and I have been chased out of an area or pushed out by what we figure could be sentries of these creatures. Right. But they don't seem to have the aggressive push that the creatures down there have. Why do you think that is? Is it an environment, or is it just the fact that it's hot out there most of the time in the bogs and the bayous? Explain your theory to me.
Well, that's a good point that you made back there as far as for the heat, because the fur coat that these things are carried around with that much body weight, I know when I'm down there looking at them, and I don't go dressed in camo or anything else like that. I'm of the opinion, and I've had research documented to back it up, that these things know you're there just as soon as you drive up. So I'm not up there, but I generally go into summer, I'll go in a short sleeve shirt, long pants with snake boots. Even that's hot enough. But these things I'm sure they're definitely irritated by the weather, the fact that we have mosquitoes down here that are the blasted size of hummingbirds. The animals down here that they eat, like I said, they tend to be a very dangerous animal. To a human being would be dangerous for sure. To a Bigfoot would be dangerous as well. Something like the snakes, the rattlesnakes. We've got rattlesnakes. I've seen 2 rattlesnakes over 8 foot long. Killed one of them myself. We have the alligators. Like I said, alligators. That's just a mouthful of teeth waiting to happen to the wrong person wading across the creek. We have the hogs, the hog population. I've seen 2 hogs that have been killed over 800 pounds. That's like almost a small Volkswagen. They've got teeth that are about 6 and 7 inches long, and every time they open and close their mouth, it's like they have an automatic sharpening system on these tusks. These tusks are a real thing, and this hog has got as bad attitude as what a gugway has. So when you've got things like that, you've got your deer with your horns. When they do eat deer, they do chase deer, and not all of them are Bambi's mama. Some of them are Bambi's daddy with the horns on there, and then too they're capable of hurt. So anything that they're going to eat as a rule, and anything that they're capable of running across in their environment, just like what you said. Canada up there, man, in the Pacific Northwest, I don't know if it's as populated as what we have down here. This down here, we've been pretty well populated, except for maybe Sulphur River bottoms, which is why I think these things, so many of these creatures live there. But because they're not as used to dealing with people up there, yes, they just want to avoid them. Down here in the South, like it or not, everything that people don't understand becomes a monster, and then they want to shoot at it. And that's just pretty well a truism. I wish it weren't so. Every snake they see, people down here, they kill. I don't kill every snake. You and I discussed before, I don't like snakes either, but I don't kill king snakes. I don't kill the garter snakes or things like that are beneficial. I make sure I get an identification. But these things that y'all have up there, they're not as used to seeing the people who are armed that want to kill them. But down here, this is another, the South, it's kind of like the reputation that Texas has. It's bigger and better and tougher in Texas. Well, that's really kind of true in a way, at least the people that try to live up to the reputation. Texas is a great state. I love Texas. But the same way with Arkansas. These people down here are hunters. They've always been hunters, not gatherers. And I'm sure that during the time of these Sasquatch life, they've been shot at a time or two. I've talked to a bunch of people who have said that they have had guns. Some have shot at them, some haven't. There's actually a show that's called Killing Bigfoot that comes on TV. And these guys, I've worked with a couple of those guys, and I'm going to tell you something. Just like you just said, everybody thinks, oh, well, they're trying to go out there and kill Bigfoot. No, these creatures that they're after are creatures that come up to your house. They kill your dogs. They kill your livestock. They beat on the side of your house. They tear down your fences. They'll holler all night to keep you awake so that you can't even hardly go to work unless you're just a wreck. So it's a different kind of animal, just like you said. They are more aggressive. There is no doubt about that. They're more aggressive down here, and it could just be the environment. It could be something that's bred into them. But it is true. They appear to be more aggressive. There may be an exception to the rule, but I believe that with all my heart.
And I understand that, and I can appreciate that. But do we have cases out there, as we got about 3 minutes to go before we go to the break at the bottom of the hour, William, where people have been harmed, maimed, or killed by these creatures down there?
We do. I was at the Boggy Creek Festival back in 2015 and had two ladies come up to me, and their brother had been attacked. But it was not an unprovoked attack. From what I understand, he had shot at the creature, and the creature was waiting on him on the way home, and it actually stepped out, bashed him across the trapezius and the neck, knocked him out, then threw him up against a tree. They found him with broken arm, broken leg, where they finally went down to get him. And this guy, because of just like what Dave Hall was telling me about the Ford house, this guy had post-traumatic stress disorder because of what had happened to him. So there are those accounts that you find, like I said, Bobby Ford, there on his porch, all he was trying to do was protect his wife. I mean, that thing beat the snot out of him, according to Dave Hall. But so they do. There is those. I've had two encounters. I had one get after me and my dog Tippy, my pit bull Tip, and then I had one that got after me and my wife and my son one night. And I think the only reason for that was possibly because might have been a young male juvenile that had pushed away from its troop, and the difference between male and female that just picked up her scent and decided that I was going to be his butt whipping for the night. And the other one there with the dogs, we had found a track the day before. And so when me and Tippy went down there, then as soon as we got out, he just screamed. Well, she was very loving, but she was also very protective. And the way that she acted, I think, kind of kept it off balance, where finally, whenever I went down to cast my track and came back, I hit my fob on my truck to where it would start the horn to just honk, scaring it. And so therefore we didn't have the violent encounter that we could have. But they do. There are encounters here where people have had where those things are very, very aggressive with them.
Interesting. So with that type of aggression, people have obviously shot at these numerous times. If we're that good a shot, so we're packing that much heat, do you think we've actually killed any of these?
I think we have. Like I said, I've heard of people who've said they have watched them fall. One person said that it was their cousin that actually shot the thing, and that a couple more of the things came out and picked the thing up and carried it back off into the woods. But with the kind of firepower we have, it would be hard to believe that it eventually didn't die later on, at least in some of these cases, if these people are telling the truth. Like I said, they have the people that have shot them. At first, they're all braggadocious, and then at the end, you hear them and you hear the remorse that's in their voice. So I think on that case right there, that kind of tells you, well, it wasn't quite as bad of encounter as you thought. You just got scared and you shot something. Thought that was the best way to get out of the situations. But I think they've been shot at, and I think they remember that. Man, that's an intelligent creature.
Well, all right. I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Our good friend talking Sasquatch and the Fouke Monster all night long is Mr. William Lunsford, all the way down from Texarkana, Texas. And we're going to continue learning about this creature, what it is, why is it scaring us, why haven't we found a body as of yet if so many hunters and gatherers have shot at this creature. Maybe we just piss it off too much, and it gets really mad and it runs away. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear.
Are those Paul Reed Smiths up there on your mantle?
No, that's a Jackson.
Okay.
That's a Jackson. The red one is a Court, and the black one here is a J. Tercer.
Well, those are pretty. I'm a guitarist as well, man, from way back. I can play a guitar and a fiddle and a banjo, a piano, a Jew's harp, you name it, and I love music.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed those last show, and I meant to ask you about them. Those are beautiful guitars. Do you play, Dave?
No, not a lick. I just always wanted guitars.
Those are pretty, man.
Give me 2 seconds here. Many of you in our YouTube chat room have seen Gary the Dutchman hanging on out. And you know as well as I do, if you know anybody who's Dutch, maybe you're Dutch yourself, you know that you don't give a deal to anybody. You just don't. That's the Dutch way of doing things. But with Mighty Moose Beard Oil, Gary the Dutchman is going to give you a deal if you use promo code SOR2019. Now, normally, beard oil is for the beard. Makes sense, right? I'm using the True North right here. It's a new one. But I got to tell you, it works on your hair as well. Now, for those of you who are bald, it's not going to work too well. But those of you who have beards, you just drop it in your hand like so. There's a little bit like that. You massage it into your hands, and then just massage it in. And ladies, this is great for your hair too. It helps prevent split ends, keeps your hair moisturized. It's all natural, no chemicals. Oh, Gary the Dutchman, taking good care of me. That's what it does right there. Hey, Fast Hemi, how you doing? So check out MightyMooseBeard.com. Check it on out. They're a good sponsor of ours. Use promo code 2019. And now until the end of April, $1 from each purchase goes to support the Parkinson's Society of British Columbia. Parkinson's is a disease that it hits close to home for Gary the Dutchman. We want to make sure that he helps raise $1,000 for that. So you can check it on out. Put it in your hair. Put it in your beard. You're going to smell great. You're going to look great. Man, woman, or anything in between, whatever. If you got hair, you can use Mighty Moose Beard Oil. Check it on out, MightyMooseBeard.com. All right, William, there. I'm done.
Good deal. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate you doing that. I have a good friend who has Parkinson's. Boy, it breaks my heart to watch him as he goes through there. So I admire him for what he's doing. Thank him for that if he cannot hear me.
Oh, he can hear you. Gary the Dutchman can hear you. He hears everything. It's not made out of real moose parts. I'm going to tell you that right now. Not made out of real moose parts.
Is it MOUSSE?
No, it's MOOSE.
Okay.
Mighty Moose. Mm-hmm. Andrew's asking, can we send the Mighty Moose beard oil to them booger women? Sure you can. Sure you can. Clean up that smell a little bit. Excuse me. All right, we've got about 2 minutes here. 2 minutes.
Dave, feel free to interrupt me anytime you want. I realize I can get to going because this is such a passionate.
I am just listening to your stories, man. Don't you worry about me. If I need to cut you off, I will. I haven't had to yet, so I'm not. I'm having a good time, dude. Thank you so much.
I am too. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. This is the coolest thing that you can do, and just, I mean, it's so much fun, and it's free, basically, you know.
Hey, Lawrence Burchett from Iowa. How you doing, man? Welcome to the show. I believe this is your second time in our chat room. Second time. Yes, Vinster, it's slut water, not twat water. Slut water. The Dave. What's going on, the big Dave? What's happening, man? We got a good crowd. 151 in here. Ozzy's little sister from Australia. Good afternoon to you. How's tomorrow looking? Please give us an update. If we're alive tomorrow, I would appreciate it since you live in the future. A big thank you to all of our super chatters tonight. Really do appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis. It's a good thing that you guys are doing and helping us out that way. And for all our new listeners who've hit that thumbs up button and that subscribe button, we really do appreciate it. So let's keep it rolling. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us in. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. The Fouke Monster, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Who's shot at it? Who has it? Who's killed one? Who hasn't? Why do we not have a body? We're going to find out from William Lunsford here, who's a researcher out of the beautiful state of Texas. William, welcome back.
Thank you.
Now,
I'll tell you what,
you know people who have fired on this creature.
Right. They say they have. I'm gonna preface that. They say they have.
All right. So this is what I've learned, and please correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of people who raise a gun to Sasquatch or any type of cryptid creature, a lot of them tend to saying that they had to put their rifle down and lower the rifle because it looked too human to shoot it, number one. But number two, they also talk about a telepathic message that they've got saying, you know, this is really going to ruin your day if you fire your gun at me. But number three, we do hear of people who have fired at this, and basically they've said that it's almost like the bullets had absolutely no effect on this creature whatsoever. What are you hearing about this?
Dave, I've heard basically the same things. The one that have shot, I've heard of some that have been supposedly knocked down. I also know that a lot of time hunters are about like fishermen. They like to brag about something and stretch the truth a little bit that maybe it didn't happen quite as they say. But whenever you do shoot one of these creatures or any creature, and it gets that feeling it's going to die, these creatures will go off into the thickest, most remote areas to die, because if they don't, then the other creatures that feed on carrion and stuff like that will find them while they're still alive, and therefore they'll eat them still alive. So I think that's one reason that if one of these creatures has been shot, that we don't find it. It could be some people. I know for a fact that they run in troops or groups. Sometimes some people think these are family units. Some people think these may be just some that have just buddied together or whatever it is, some that have maybe, quote, born at the same time or something like that. So they say that they look after each other. I believe that with all my heart. They tend to hunt together. They have a pecking order. They have a certain way that in the way that they hunt, that a certain one will be dominant, a certain one will go here, a certain will go there. Especially when they're hunting deer and hogs and stuff like that. I actually have here from September the 14th, 2020 last year, I have a cellular game camera out. And that night, about 1:30 or 2 o'clock, the game camera alarm started going off. So I looked at it. And when I did, I've got a picture of a deer, and I mean a big, beautiful deer that any hunter would be proud to kill. And all of a sudden, he takes off running. Then the next picture I get is just his behind as he's running. Well, then the next picture I get is a rock that's flying by my camera. Then the next picture I get is a rock flying by my camera because the light stays on while it's recording. I get 5 pictures of rocks. The last one actually has 2 rocks thrown at it. And whenever it is in the background, you can see the Bigfoot standing back there in the back. Well, coincidentally, I never got a picture of this same deer anymore, but I knew right then I was right in the middle of a Bigfoot hunt for deer. Well, this year, in September, when my partner Stephen Hill and I got to go down to our main hunting area up there close to where he lives, we got up there. We have a place, we call it the candy store. We bait these things in on this stump to come in and try to get research on them, and we bait them in with candy bars. Well, when Stephen got there that day, I wasn't able to go. There on top of what we call the candy store is one of the horns from this deer. And like I said, this deer is beautiful, but you can tell the horn has been broken off, but it's been set there for us almost like a gift. We come back 2 weeks later, and we go to a different part to reset some of the cameras. We go to a place that had a camera the year before, but had pulled it out so that none of the deer hunters would get it and take it home with them. And sure enough, whenever we get there, there lies the other horn from this deer right here. So these animals had sit there and had gifted those things to us. But then I think it's because they recognize that we're not going to hurt them. But as a rule, whenever you got people in there that have been shooting at these animals and things like that, they're not going to stand there. I talked to 3 guys one day, and they were down there, and they had the first boy. I say guys, he was probably 18 years old. The first boy had been down there, and he saw a Bigfoot, but he thought it was somebody that was poaching on his hunting lease. He hollered, "Hey, I've got a gun. You better get out of here." Of course, the Bigfoot pays him no attention, keeps going his way, goes off into the woods. So he gets 2 of his buddies the next day, and there's 3 of them down there, and they're going to be down there waiting for this trespasser, this poacher. So when they're walking down there that morning, they're sitting there at the intersection of the road. Sure enough, they see 2 bodies step out across this road. All of a sudden, they start hollering, hey, here we are. We've got guns. We're fixing to shoot you. You're trespassing." When they do, these things turn around and look at them, and these 3 boys, are armed to the teeth, and they're looking at 2 Bigfoot. Well, the Bigfoot look at them, and then they take off their way. Well, the boys go back the other way. When they get home, they tell their daddy what happened, why they're home so early. And daddy said, "Well," he said, "where's it laying at?" And they said, "Well, it's really not laying anywhere." And said, "Well, why not?" I said, "You've got one of them had a 30-30, one of them had a 30-06, the other had a 12-gauge shotgun, and then they had a 22 just for good measure." He said, "You have all this firepower. Why in the world did you not shoot?" And the story that I hear time and time again from people, "Dad, we just didn't think we could kill it. It was just that big. We didn't have enough firepower." So these people that are doing all the bragging about shooting at the things, I tend to question a lot of that sometimes. That bravado it's easy to find whenever there's nobody there to check your story. And but there have been people that have shot at people, I think, that are credible. And on that case right there, I just think we haven't. If we didn't find the bones, I think probably they could be with being in their own family troops like that, or groups, just like they have that hunting group, that they may have buried their own dead. That's possible. And then it's also possible that they could be cannibalistic. It's as gross as what that sounds, but still, nature tends to has its own way of dealing with things. And so that's just a theory, Dave. Like I said, it's not something that we know, but it makes a lot of sense that it could be. They could go into a cave, they could have the bones all stacked up there, but not everybody, or not anybody that I know, has the money to take every bone they find and send it in for a DNA analysis. Because if you know how much that costs, you realize that's very cost prohibitive. Number 2, not every Sasquatch bone is going to be 2 foot long, like from a leg bone. The squirrels or coyotes or anything else going to get to it. You may have a 6-inch bone fragment there that's actually the femur of a Bigfoot, but you didn't recognize it as being such because it didn't have the size that you might have thought that it should have. So again, with the cost factor, And along with that kind of a misidentification of the bones, I think that's one reason we don't have that proof as such that one has been killed. In the South, what we're supposed to be taught is that you don't kill anything that you can't eat. But unfortunately, that's not always the case, and I imagine it may be the case that there's sometimes with some people in Canada also. But these animals, they're just so intuitive. They realize if they're seen, there's a pretty good chance. Now, I've never seen one dragging a limb behind his foot there to cover up his footprints. I don't buy that right there. I know they're smart, but they go where they go. They have to. They have within their environment, but they're so used to their environment. But they realize how important it is not to be seen. I have seen them in a brush pile when I pulled up there, and I was setting out some of my game cameras, and I didn't even know the thing was there, and I dropped my game camera off of my tailgate. When I reached down to pick it up, I just happened to be looking across this field, and this thing leaned his head up out there behind this brush top. Well, when he did, I'm like, all right. So I go ahead and get my phone set to where I can get the picture and get the game camera set, and I lean up and I pop his picture. So I've got his picture over there with his head sticking up from behind a brush pile back there. But again, what he did whenever I was there, he just simply laid down to where I couldn't see him. He could see me, but then I couldn't see him. So they're very, very smart, but they're very, very wary. The amount of skill set they have in not being seen it is incredible. Well, again, just to stand there, they'll stand there and just let you go right by. Then all of a sudden they take off. You're like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? Well, you did.
One of the things I've heard to everybody who goes out looking for Sasquatch, it's great to have a GoPro camera or a camera rolling in front of you, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to cross behind you. And nobody ever has that GoPro facing backwards while they're walking. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that. Buck deer will do the same thing. A buck deer will sit there and it will circle right around you and it will cross behind you and it will go back the other way. So you imagine as dumb as a buck deer is, as smart as a Sasquatch is, they know the same little trick. And I've heard that from many, many people that have had the thing that's crossed behind them. So me and my son have had them where there was one that evidently they were in a group there that was hunting. It was one night there. And so they got separated. So the one was over there. We could hear it moving. Then we could hear the other creatures that were over here. So anyway, they created a big disturbance right there in front of us, started throwing rocks and sticks and everything else. So we got our spotlights. And of course, we're kind of scared, too, because that's kind of aggressive behavior. We don't know how far that's going to escalate. All of a sudden, we hear the one run across the road up there. Then they're together. Then they just take off. So that's pretty smart behavior too, as well. So these things, again, like I said, we're not dealing with some kind of animal that's just that's not on top of its game. It knows its territory so well. It's almost to the point of being obsessive compulsive or even autistic. We saw one September the 8th back in 2016, and it was on this gas line. They had just recently bush hogged this gas line. So when my son saw it, it was down on all fours, or not on all fours, but it looked like it was down crouching, and it was eating roadkill or something. Well, then whenever he gets the spotlight on it, it stands up. I get my spotlight up on it. Well, it starts walking towards us, and then it just ducks down. And whenever it does, it sits there for a second or two, realizes we still got the lights on it. It starts walking again. Ducks down again. We still got the lights on it. So it does this 3 or 4 times, the same scenario. Finally, it ducks underneath a pine bough, and then as we're sitting there looking at the eyes glowing, looking at us, walks towards us a little bit and takes off. We went back the next day, and whenever we did, every place that this thing went and it bent down, there was the trunk of what used to be about an arm-sized tree right there that had been bush hogged down. But it knew that the tree should have been there, and it should have been able to hide from us, but it couldn't. That's the kind of familiarity that these things have and the kind of obsession they have as far as from knowing their area. When you have that, that's hard to deal with. We don't have that kind of skill set as human beings, but they have it as Bigfoot.
Okay, well, that kind of makes sense to me. But let's get back to the shooting of this creature.
Okay.
All right. There's so many rumors about what happens if you actually shoot at it and hit it. And people who are making claims of killing one of these creatures, we can only take their word for it. There's never a body or anything like that. Like, I'm sorry, but even if you're with a group of people and you're that armed and you've just dropped something like that, why wouldn't you try and grab some hair or a hand or the head or something? Now, I understand with what you're saying about there's others usually around and they're going to be very, very angry. I get that. I can appreciate that. But, I mean, if we're all trying to prove this creature, and these people are making boldish claims that they've killed this thing, we got to go after that, man. We just can't. And trust me, I'm not a kill person. I don't want to see one of these creatures killed. I would prefer to see it walk right in front of me. And that's good enough for me. But
that's good enough for me too as well, Dave. Now, there is one person out there, and I'm not going to call any names. Like I said, I don't publicly chastise other Bigfooters or whatever, what they claim to be. But there is one person out there that claims to have killed a baby Bigfoot and killed a mama. And on the one show, whenever he was being interviewed, he was very, very remorseful. He had tears in his eyes. Said he had in hindsight, he wouldn't have done it. Well, then later on, he was on the show called $1 Million Bigfoot Bounty. And the same guy that was supposedly remorseful and all this other stuff, he had taken and buried the body because he was, he was afraid people would find out. So he said,
that's, to me, that's crap. That's crap.
I agree.
If you have a body, you're going to turn it into science. You're going to call your local university. I already know 12 people that I am going to be calling if I were to walk across a dead one in the forest. All I know is that I'm getting it out of there. Even if it's just a chunk, I'm getting it out of there.
Well, this same person on this Bigfoot Bounty show was bragging, yeah, I'm the only person who's ever held a baby Bigfoot. I've got Bigfoot blood on my boots and all this other stuff. That didn't fly with me. I think if it had been me, I'd have been the California game wardens. I'd have went and checked on somebody killing a bear illegally or something other like that. But I'm like you, that didn't fly with me. Why would you go to all that trouble of killing one then not get it? They supposedly went back to get what they call the Bigfoot steak. It was a piece of, he dug it up. Of course, it had snowed since then, dug up what he had, found a piece of meat with some hair attached. It was checked by the guy, I think his name was Sykes, the guy from England over there, the DNA expert, and it ended up being bear hair. So I'm kind of like you. Those things, I just don't buy that story. I'm not calling him a liar. I wasn't there, but it doesn't make sense to me because you've gone to that much trouble. Already, my next door neighbor's a lawyer. He and I both have a whole scenario. He knows what I do. And we have a whole scenario set up. If I ever, like you said, even just come across one in the woods that's dead, what we're going to do. It's not going to be of where we just call, then all of a sudden the police meet us up there and they confiscate my body. We've got about 7 or 8 different places we're going to meet with 7 or 8 different people. Then we're going to get that body out there. And we're going to try to bring it to the public realm as far as that goes. But we do have a plan, and that's what you got to have. It's not going to be otherwise. So therefore, it doesn't make sense to me either, Dave.
No, it doesn't. And trust me, like in your voice and for ours, for people who are just tuning in, we're not saying that a Bigfoot should be killed. We're not saying that. There is a whole contingent of people out there who believe that we need to drop one of these creatures to prove its existence. But there's also the big debate of whether or not this creature is known. And if it is, if you do report a body of this Sasquatch or whatever it may be, is the government going to take it and cover it up? What's your stance on that, William?
I think the government knows that these creatures are out there. I have some friends that have been in the military. I went with my sister last year to Little Rock to have her knee replaced. There was a lady up there at one of these hospitals there, and her husband had been in Fort Lewis, Washington. And they were, according to her, informed that Bigfoot was there and what they were to do if they saw a Bigfoot, and how to handle the situation, everything else like this. So I think for sure, based on that, also I have another friend down around Fort Polk, Louisiana, that's he has said in good faith to me that they know it's there. They've actually gone down and killed some whenever they became nuisances and people were threatened to make it public. So they actually went down and got away with some of the nuisance animals, and they can be nuisance animals. I've had it here on Mercer Bayou where one night we went to go put our boat in. We were trying to go out there and they had the thing locked, so we couldn't go. So we went to we were actually going to go do some researching. We went to the other end of the bayou, which is 15 miles by road or so or more, and we go down there, and then all of a sudden, 30 minutes later, we hear these airboats going through, and then we hear these ARs just going off like crazy, going back and forth. Thought, well, man, that shouldn't be, because there wasn't any place you could put in an airboat like that. If you've ever seen the trailers for them, how big they are. So we go back to the first place we went to, and sure enough, there's the green and the black vans and the trucks and everything else like that. There wasn't any Johnny Farmer or Johnny Hunter deal there. These were actually official looking vehicles. So I think they know they're there. But once you classify these creatures, there's so much red tape that goes, so much area that they're going to have to do without. They're not going to be able to do the logging. They're not going to be able to do sometimes where you run the water there to get the electricity. They're not going to be able to do that because of the rules that are in place by the people who believe in protecting these creatures. So therefore, they just keep it quiet, and it's a money situation. And it could be, some of it could be, they may actually have enough of our good interest at heart. They don't want people out there panicking, going out there, everyone having a gun and shooting each other. I know when the Fouke Monster had that sighting, there were people camping in people's yards, cutting their fence, camping in their pastures. They were all armed. They finally had to go and do a gun ban down there. When you went down to Fouke, you were probably in a line of cars that was a half a mile to a mile long, driving down through there during this time, trying to get a sighting at the creature. So the government could actually have our best interest at heart, but they do know they're real, and they do know they're there. That's for sure, because I have enough credible resources there that's actually has told me. Matter of fact, one person I knew there, one of our sorority sisters' husband worked for the government, and he was coming back through to where they were meeting at, and he was pulling a refrigerated trailer, and they wanted to know what was in there. He made them put down their cameras and their cell phones, and he showed them it was a headless Bigfoot that supposedly had been killed during Hurricane Isaac in Louisiana. The head had already been sent to wherever it was going to, and he was taking the body up there. Well, he wouldn't let him take a picture or anything else like that. And so whenever he left, then I had a picture. I had an actual casted Bigfoot track I'd taken to work, and this lady that was working there, she goes, "What is that?" I said, "Well, that's a Bigfoot track." And she said, "Well, I've seen one of them." And I said, "You've seen a Bigfoot track?" She goes, "No, I've seen a Bigfoot." And I said, "Really?" And because she used to live down close to Fouke. I said, "Where?" "We're down and around Fouke." She goes, "No, it was actually one of our sorority sisters' parties there, her college sorority, and this girl's husband worked for the government. He was pulling the thing up there." The only way that could happen is for the government to know it. He just didn't rent that trailer on his own, because she said it stank as far as they go, but she said it was monstrous as far, still over 8 foot tall with the head cut off. And that's that's a person that I know and that I trust very much. I know that she was not lying to me. She actually works for a lawyer right now. So I believe that story. So I believe our government knows that it's out there. I really do. And then on that case right there, I think they're trying to keep it covered up for whatever the reason is.
Well, I can see the cover up due to financial reasons. And we've talked about that numerous times on this show. Financial reasons are massive. Mining, tourism, forestry, fishing, whatever it may be. All right. And for people who don't understand that when you find a creature that's endangered or a brand new creature, the government immediately shuts down everything in that area. Like, people are not allowed in that area until they are complete with their studies. And it could take weeks, could take months, could take years. And that's just the way the government does it. You know, they've done it for owls in Oregon. They've done it for other creatures around North America. And that's just the way it goes. But with this one...
Yeah, the snail darter at Tellico Dam in Tennessee, they'd already done most of the construction on that dam. All of a sudden, they discovered the snail darter. They shut the whole thing down, you know, and for what it did to the economy and everything else. So like you said, that's kind of, since money tends to be their motivating factor. You know, I don't think they have such a heart for a snail darter. Maybe some of the people do. But like you said, it's involved with the money situation. Once you hit somebody in their pocketbook, then you've hit them someplace that they're going to feel, and they're actually going to make their judgments based on that, a lot of times more so than what they're claiming that their reasons are.
Fully agree with you on that, you know, but it still doesn't, I mean, I'm still not convinced, William, that the government is hiding this creature from people. I think you're right. I think they know about it, and they don't want to talk about it because they may not see an interest in it right now. But I don't think they're running around super soldiers that are, you know, have been bio-created in some laboratory. You know, I think it gets a little bit ridiculous at those points.
You know, the Russians tried that super soldier thing before there, and it didn't work out there. I'm like you. I don't think they have it as – I think it's a creature that they have come across, and they realize it's there, and they're not going to tame it as far as that goes. So what do? They just manage whatever they let get out to the public as far as the information, and they say, well, what you don't know won't hurt you. Maybe so, maybe not. But if somebody gets killed by one of these things, then the government's going to be liable. And I'm going to take a dim view of that if that's somebody in my family or your family that gets hurt because they didn't want this to get out for whatever reason they had.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing with aliens right now.
Sure. Exactly. Look at Roswell. What was that, 1932? Isn't that right? And we still don't know any more than what we did, back then when that supposed spaceship, crashed out back there then. So you're right. We could say the same thing with aliens. It's supposed to be the government's job to protect us, but a lot of times they want to protect us from ourselves, or at least here in the United States, government want to protect us from ourselves. And I don't need that. I'm a pretty smart guy. I can take care of my own self.
William Lunsford, we have him for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio, talking monsters. We'll get into little Dogman and other weird creatures that he's come across with next on the Mighty SORs. We turn to hour number 3. All right, man, I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, sure.
Hey, Sovereign Farts, how you doing? Rip one for us while we're on break here, dude.
You know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
All right, brother. I am back. And we got a couple minutes left. Good times tonight. Hey, T-Rev, how you doing, man? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Ring the bell so that way you know when we're going to come on live. Yes, we're having a good time tonight. Talking some Sasquatch with William Lunsford. He's got a great shirt on, too.
Thank you.
Hi, Terrible Times. Good to see you. Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime. How are you? Thank you to everybody who has donated to the Super Chat tonight. 416 Bitcoin, good to see you. All the way in Ontario there. Oh, Cosmic Flower's still here. Look at that. Look at that. All right, we got 15 seconds left, everyone. We're going to have a fun final half hour. Just hold on until we get through the break, and then I'll say goodnight to you properly. Okay, Will?
Sure, buddy.
All right, hold on, guys. Here we go. 5 seconds. Let's rock and roll.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in wherever you are, listening to the weird and strange that we call Spaced Out Radio. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us tonight, Clam? Oh, I think it's Jig'em Bob is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. You know, Will, tomorrow night, we have a little bit of an anniversary around here. You know that.
What's going on?
Tomorrow night at about 10:18 p.m. Pacific, it will be the 6th anniversary of Carl the Great Alien showing up at my window during our broadcast. I'll
that
tell
happens
you.
to me. That's whenever I'm gone to another state.
I'm telling you right now, man, that still affects me. Like when you were talking earlier about what it's like to see a Bigfoot and how it changes you, the window was like 7 feet away from me, if that. And to see that big gray head with those giant black eyes staring back at me from the other side of the window still scares me, man. Still scares me to this day. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So we'll welcome Carl in tomorrow night, but we're going to talk some monsters with you now, because you don't only just track Bigfoot or the Fouke Monster. You're into Dogman. You're into all sorts of creatures down there in Texas. What else are you chasing down?
Well, there's several that we've got, some that we haven't even classified. Sometimes when you get a picture of something on your game cams, it creates more questions than answers. But again, Gugway, because I saw the Gugway, realized that I had to learn more about that creature. The dog man the same way. I've always been deathly afraid of dog man. I would jokingly tell people if I ever saw a dog man for sure, then I was going to become a greeter at Walmart and stop all my research. We also have what's called a devil monkey, and that sounds like something that you would hear on Family Guy or whatever, something like that. But it's not. It's actually almost like a little baboon-like creature, but it has very, very sharp teeth. It's got the pointed ears. For an example of that, you can get on your internet and look up the DeRitter roadkill, as in DeRitter, Louisiana, and one of those things was killed on the side of the road. Then we also have up there on our area, again, I said last show that we did, there's things I don't talk about. It's hard enough to get people to believe that Bigfoot is real, and then I didn't want to admit Dogman for the longest, number one, because that creature terrified me, but number two, because for my family, for everybody, so, oh yeah, your dad believes in Bigfoot, Dogman, ghost, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want to put my family in that kind of defensive position. But we also have what looks like to be a gargoyle up there. The head is bald. It has a very big hump on the head as far as it goes, and the ears are sharp and pointed and stick up about 2 inches off the side. And the eyes on that rascal are just extremely red. I mean, just like tomato red. And that scares me as well. So because I don't know what these creatures are, I don't know enough about them. And since they haven't been classified, there's not a group that you can actually go to and say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to learn. So it's basically I'm just learning this by myself. And so having to be careful, again, going out there, again, like I said, armed only for protection, but then, like you said, trying to do some real scientific research instead of opinion research. Looking at people think that, oh, well, you just go Bigfoot, you just go and you look at bent trees, and then you look at scuffs in the dust mark someplace where an armadillo is dug up and claim that it's Bigfoot. That's not so, man. There's a lot of our research we try to figure out as far as what the structures mean. We try to figure out when we look at the tracks. Sometimes the tracks, the different shapes that they have, whether the skinny ones mean it's a female, whether they have the kind of parentheses shape to them and stuff like that. The ones that have the splayed toes sticking out. I could show you. I sent it to Duke Sullivan's show there on World Bigfoot Radio, a comparison shot of what's called the most vicious chimpanzee troop in Africa, and then a picture that my friend Michael Waldy has gotten. And if you look at the two, they're just so daggum similar. It's hard to believe that at least there's not one species of Bigfoot that could possibly be an ape. So you look at these things. So again, we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. Even about Bigfoot, we don't necessarily know a lot of things for sure, but learning those things like that, and when you see them, and it's something that's appeared several times on our game cameras. And so looking at that right there, that's something that we're looking towards we're looking, most animals have a feeding area and a bedding area. We'll try to find where the feeding areas are and the bedding areas are to try to put some kind of a scientific spin on that, so that we can at least have some kind of knowledge and some kind of predictability to our research next time, have a place to pick up and start from. So it's pretty interesting, really, because there's a lot of things out there that we don't realize. I didn't want to acknowledge some of these creatures, like I said, Dogman and Bigfoot especially. I mean, Dogman and Gugway especially. Bigfoot, since I've had it, it's affected my life since I was 17 years old. It's just kind of like my older stepbrother. But the other ones there, when you have those things like that and you don't know enough. So trying to learn about that. Native American tradition, they have tended to respect these animals and to acknowledge these animals a whole lot more than what we have. And so I've been spending a lot of time actually trying to do some study along those lines as well, to see what it is, why they think these things are, and things like that. And so far it's been real interesting. I haven't got anything that I can just definitely put my thumb on and say, yeah, that's it, but except the fact that I know they exist because their pictures keep popping up on my game cams. And I think you'll acknowledge the pictures I sent you they're definitely, the animals are real. They're there. It's the big eye don't lie. Whenever you get something like that right there, you can't understand it. Sometimes you just got to accept it and go on.
A lot of these creatures, whether it's this gargoyle, whether it's Dogman, Bigfoot, whatever it may be, are they treading on each other's territory?
Yes, they are. Down here, what's really strange, the Bigfoot and Dogman tend to run together, as stupid as that sounds. About a month and a half ago, my partner Stephen Hill and I were up there at our place there in Arkansas, and we had, what was really funny, we have a certain way that we go and set all the cameras. That way we get the SD cards, we know which ones are which and which ones came from which one. But this time we went in there and we went through backwards, kind of counterclockwise. Well, whenever we did, as we're coming up right about the time that twilight is, we look to our right, and up from the bottom of this hill comes 3 Bigfoot and a Dogman. And they didn't see us. The wind was in our favor, and the grass was kind of in our favor. We were kind of up on a hill, and where they were, all of a sudden, when the first Bigfoot sees us, it ducks down into the woods, as I explained a while ago. And then we didn't see it anymore until it was finally in the edge of the woods. Another one stepped behind a tree, stepped beside a tree, and the other one actually stood behind the Dogman. But we see the Dogman walking up there with us. So they actually tend to run together. We've got tracks there that are almost side by side. We've been finding this track line. It looks almost like an animal foot on a pogo stick because, again, they're the same way. They're in what's called tightrope position right there. We found it in 2019. We found it in 2020. Again, we found a few tracks this year, and then we actually had the sighting of that Dogman up there where we are. So to see those things like that, we knew it was there. And again, like I said, it wasn't at first. It just sounded so silly. Well, everybody's like, "Oh, well, man, you guys just getting carried away." Well, then, like I said, once you start getting evidence, and I mean evidence, you've got tracks. I've got tracks with daggum claws on there that are nowhere near similar to what Bigfoot tracks are, and got the pictures of them, and we're not finding a whole lot of dead animals as such. We find some that are being just really ripped and gutted, but other than that, not like what you would expect, just animals laying all over the place. So it is, but it's things like that that we're finding, that we're trying to learn about, and it does. It's kind of unnerving to you to sit there and realize, oh my gosh, I didn't know that these things, but their territories do coexist. My partner Stephen has them on his land, and he's got a picture of probably a whole troop of animals. It's far enough away you can't really see for sure which ones are Bigfoot and which ones are Dogman, except for 2 of them, and then you can see that one of them is at least a Dogman. The other is probably a Dogman because it has the ears. So they do tend to, their ears tend to overlap, and where it's a symbiotic relationship that benefits both of them. We don't really know that, but we know that their territories are overlapping. And where we are, there's caves, there's mountains, there's pine thickets, there's rocks, there's mountains, clefts in mountains. So there's all kinds of places for these creatures to hide up there. Down here, we're not seeing that so much here in Texarkana around Fouke. Everything seems to be, quote, Fouke Monster type Bigfoot, the kind that have the cone head, that have the boat paddle feet, black, 7.5 to 9.5 foot tall. So I think it's the area up there it's just different, but it is different, and it is a real thing. It's not something I'm trying to pull somebody's leg with right now. And that's the reason I don't discuss it, because people think, oh, you're crazy. Well, I'm not crazy, but then, I don't know enough about it to give you an educated opinion. I just know he's there.
Okay, so if you know he's there, like the Dogman in that same creature, have there been any reports of Dogman and the Fouke Lake Monster coming together?
As far as that goes, I have talked to one man down there that lives right there off of Sulphur River, where I have to do a whole lot of my Bigfoot research. And he asked me one time, he said, man, what do you think about these creatures? And I said, I believe they exist. What about you? And he goes, well, he said, here lately we've been getting this really strange howl at our house. And he said, it's not like anything we've ever heard before. He said, at first my wife was scared to go outside, and said, the more voluminous it's become, said she's now afraid to go out in the daytime. I talked to another man who said that he saw one walking down the banks of Sulphur River while he was going up to run a trot line, which is just a line that you run across the river, tie it from one side of the bank to the other and stuff like that. And so he saw one up there. And his description was just like mine. The upper body tended to be more muscular. The head was more coyote-ish or wolfish. It walked on 2 legs, and then once you got down to where the waistline was, the waist slimmed up some. The legs were not backwards, but they were different than what a Bigfoot, as far as being like a person's. I had one lady there. I went into a store one day while I was delivering, and this is the only time I've ever had this said to me. And she said, boy, you look horrible. You look, I said, man, I am wore out and tired. She goes, you look it. She goes, I said, well, I'm so hungry I could eat a werewolf hair and all. And she goes, well, if that's the case, you need to come down to my house. And I said, a werewolf? And she goes, well, said everybody says it's kind of like a werewolf. It's kind of like that monster in Fouke right there. And she said it comes down below my house and it howls and it stirs up my cows. She said, I've never seen it, but my neighbors have. And I said, and they say it's like a werewolf? She said, yeah. Most everybody here in Fouke, when you hear a story of the Fouke monster, of that type Bigfoot, they say it looked like a big gorilla. And it does. The first one I saw looked like a big gorilla. But she said werewolf, and these other people said werewolf. Well, Dave, whenever I heard that and I got to thinking back on it, and to hear that such a different radical explanation of what you've seen, then I thought, man, maybe there is more to this than what we've had. I've had 2 reports this week of Dogman that within 25 miles of Texarkana, like I said, which is right there on the Arkansas-Texas state line. I've had 2 reports this week from people who have contacted me on Facebook and said, you know, I heard your show. I want you to know that you sounded credible, and I feel like I can trust you with this sighting. And then they tell me about the sightings that they've had. And, man, it just blows your mind because you know, some of them to be so close, and I'd never heard these accountings before. So they are definitely in an area where they're running together, where it's because maybe we're cutting down all the trees and they're having to, you know, get in the same patch of forest or whatever it is. But whatever it is, there's something that's causing these animals to start running together a little bit.
All right, William Lunsford is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Question coming from Duke, who's asking, William, could you talk about the picture you got of inside of a Sasquatch mouth?
I can. I have a Bigfoot. I sent these pictures to you, Dave. I tend to send my pictures to Duke. Duke, if you know anything about Duke's format, he's got a wonderful show. But you send him pictures. You just don't tell him something, and him just take it at face value. He's just like you. He has some really good questions, some scrutinizing questions. And so I sent him a picture of a Bigfoot that bites my camera. The one of them has real big block teeth. The tooth pattern is kind of like an ape pattern. But the other one that I sent him, I sent him 2. There's one, and the teeth are basically all canines. I mean, they're just sharp and they're gnarly looking. And between when the thing has its mouth open to bite my camera, you can see 2 orange eyes, which is another Bigfoot. But the third picture that Duke is talking about, this Bigfoot or this Dogman, whatever this creature was, has its mouth open. You can see the sharpened teeth that this thing has got the camera in his mouth. And over there outside, you can see the silhouette of a patty-style Bigfoot. And I've actually was able to filter it up some and to get it. Had I not been so lazy as not to go and reset the light meter on my camera, I would have a very clear picture. But you can see the pointed teeth. You can see where the camera inside this thing's mouth. And then you see the Bigfoot standing on the outside. And I sent you that picture, Dave, and I told you, I said, this is Duke's favorite one. That's what it is. And so, and that's a legitimate thing. I had a camera 2 weeks ago that was totally destroyed. Everything on there that was glass and light was bit. The hard plastic was crushed into. And on our game cameras, anytime we have a game camera out, we put a spy camera out. Well, this camera here that he bit was ruined, but the spy camera got his pictures. And so these are going to be some that, again, like I said, with what I've told Duke, that I'm going to debut my stuff on his show. As soon as I get it debuted, then I'll be glad to share it with somebody else. But it's actually a picture. You can see the sharpened teeth, and you can see the camera, and then you see the Bigfoot standing on the outside. So that's probably one of the top 3 pictures that I have.
If you're having cameras destroyed by this creature, biting it or tearing it apart, what do you do with that evidence?
Well, the first time that I got it, I had a box of rocks that I was taking home to put in my wife's garden. And up there on this road, the road is gravel. It turned over and I totally tore it up, even worse than what it was. And like a fool, I didn't keep it. I just threw it away. And then I thought, well, how dumb was that? Well, then the second one that I had, the one where the Bigfoot comes up and you can see, like I said, all the teeth pattern, and he's got it up there in his mouth. And that one right there I have kept, but because I had picked it up, I knew that my camera, I put a stick facing in the way that the lens is so that I'll know when I walk up, if it's turned, then I'll know that something has handled it and to go get some gloves. At the time, I didn't know it. So I went ahead and picked this camera up, and I would have had Bigfoot DNA from the teeth and also from the hands. So now I'm more prepared. I carry the sterile gloves with me. And I carry a sterile plastic wrap, and then whenever something like that, and I notice that the camera's been moved, then I don't take any chances. I handle it only with the sterile gloves on like that, and hopefully I can get some DNA. I also have a baseball bat that one bit, and did the same way, and I just was just unprepared on that when I reached there and grabbed it before I thought about it. And I thought, what an idiot you are. Sometimes, you get so caught up in the moment that you just forget about what you're so excited you forget about what your whole purpose is research, because you're so amazed at something this creature has done. And I'm guilty of that, and I think we all are in some ways, but I try to remedy that. So
well, it's because of the excitement. You
exactly.
see, I know at my own gifting sites, I see something that's moved, I get all excited about it. I'm not trying to prove it to the world, I'm trying to prove it to myself.
Exactly.
But that's a little bit different for what you guys are going down there, is it not?
It is. Like I said, we are actually doing, like I said, not just, just have fun frills research. We're actually trying to find something. We have a stump there, and I have sent this picture to Duke where there's a baby out there. We're putting Legos, we're putting marbles, golf balls, and candy bars to see if they have a color preference for one, to see if they have a shape preference, number two. But right here during one of the lightning storms that we had, all of a sudden we get a picture, and here's this baby Bigfoot that's over here squatted down in front of this gifting stump, and he's actually rearranging the Legos, and I'm sure has already eaten the candy bar. And so I'm not sure if I sent you that picture, but I did send it. It's on Duke's show as far as World Bigfoot Radio, episodes 91, episodes 104. If anybody wants to see these pictures, I tend to send more there. And so it is. So it's really one of those things that where you can get that DNA. We're trying our best on that right there. And like I said, sometimes that excitement just gets the best of you. And then my wife chastises me every day, said, "You're the worst Bigfoot hunter there is," until I actually got a peanut butter lid that one had brought back to us from a peanut butter jar. I put it in a bag, had everything sterilized, and we were getting ready to remodel the house. And she reaches inside the bag, pulls out the lid, said, "Oh, what is this?" I'm like, golly. I said, that was that Bigfoot peanut butter lid that had the DNA that wasn't contaminated until you just put your hand in there. She goes, "Oh," well, there's nothing else to say. But it's the excitement of it, that gets you involved like that.
We got 2 minutes left. I want to get Jeff's question in here. He is asking, so who should we call first if someone sees a dead Bigfoot? Should we call a government agency or a specialist at a university or a Bigfoot research organization?
I would probably, if it was me, Dave, I would call a Bigfoot resource organization. As backwards as what that sounds. I have a friend whose brother experienced the Apache helicopters coming over his house, the men, quote, men in black coming knocking on his door, and we saying, "We want to know if you've seen anything." And he goes, "What are you talking about, like Bigfoot?" And they wouldn't even answer his question if he's talking about Bigfoot or not. He goes, "Well, since you're not going to answer my question, I'm not going to answer yours." They said, "Well, would you just call us with this card?" He said, "No, I'm not going to call you." But like I said, 2 nights later, here come the Apache helicopters. He hears the same kind of shooting that I was describing a while ago. So I would call a Bigfoot research organization. Somebody that's reputable. I'm not going to say which ones I wouldn't call. I said I don't want to criticize them, but I would find somebody that I really trust before I ever admitted to it, and I would do that. Then the second thing I do, I get me a lawyer as far as it goes. Like my next door neighbor's a lawyer, and that way we've got some legal channels to go through. And then at the end, I would call some independent witnesses as far as that goes, to document what you're saying, that this is yours, this is something you have found. And then the last one I would be I've never reported a Bigfoot sighting to any law enforcement that I've had. I've told the game wardens I've seen it, and I've told the policemen I've seen it, and they know that's what I do, and they believe me. But as far as just reporting it like, "Oh, well, I had a Bigfoot sighting, come check this out." No, I've never done it and wouldn't done that. I think that right there is the first step to disaster, is getting somebody that really, number one, they may not believe you, but number two, that has an ulterior motive to not take your sighting credibly.
Very true. My friend, it is that time of the night where we have to prepare to say good night to you. And I want to say, William, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Where can our audience check out your information and your research?
Right now, like I said, get in touch with me on Facebook. I'm everything that I have debuted as far as pictures on Duke's show, I'm willing to share with other people, because it's basically just it's basically just public knowledge right now, public domain. But I do have a book written. There's some things that I haven't put out there yet. And so, but I'm very open to discussing things with people. Like I said, I've sent pictures to people. I've sent pictures to people all over the country, and I think they'll be relieved to say, "Hey, I know I'm not crazy. Yes, this guy has got a picture of a Bigfoot looking at me from 4 foot away." So just to get it on me on Facebook, it's under William Lunsford, and you'll see a picture of me sitting there stroking my little. Like I said, my new ZZ Top goatee here, and right there by a cutout of Duck Dynasty, and I'll be glad to talk to you. Now, I stay in Facebook jail a lot, so don't expect an instant answer. And for that, I wear that like a badge of courage. The more Facebook hates me, the happier I am. So,
my friend, thank you so much for the first time coming on this show. It won't be the last. William Lunsford, everybody. Coming up next, we have the SOR News Wire and the Thought of the Dave. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this as we look to take this show home. Great show tonight, buddy.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate you, buddy. You asked some tough questions, and I appreciate those, bud. That's what makes me a better researcher.
You're amazing. Amazing. It's the start of a good relationship here, my friend.
I hope so. I've been able to, the shows I've been on, to remain friends with everybody, and I appreciate them for what they are. I appreciate you for what you do, man. You've got a way of reaching people that's really, it's special. When you find that right there, you've got the it factor. Whatever the it is, you've got it.
It's the power of the hair. It's the power of the hair.
I'm going to get me some of that moose oil, buddy, and I'm going to see if I can't grow me some and have some power in mine there. So right now, mine has the power to turn loose, but we're fixing to remedy that if we can.
Excuse me, I hate yawning at this time of night. But when you work 2 jobs a day, you get a little tired.
But I don't see how you do it. It's 1:30 right here, and I'm tired too. But, man, I'll tell you, I don't see how you do what you do, man. And your stuff is fresh. I've listened to your shows since I've been doing it. Man, you're a funny guy. Man, you bring it out. Your audience loves you. And I appreciate this opportunity so much to be on your show, man. I mean, I hope these people know that I'm not pulling their leg 1 minute. Duke will vouch for that. And I think, like I said, with those pictures that I sent you will vouch for that I'm doing what I say that I'm doing. And my research partners, too. When I say I with we, because my partners are invaluable with what I do.
Well, my bud, I appreciate you. I appreciate a great interview. Looking at the audience questions here and comments, they absolutely love you as well, and well-deserved, very much well-deserved. We're going to do this again, I promise you. Probably at the end of sometime in fall, we'll bring you back to kind of check up on how the year was, because you're going to have a lot more new information and everything. So I think that's going to be great, dude.
Dave, I thank you so much. I really do, man. And I don't say that stuff like this means a lot to me. You've got anybody you could have on the show, so I really appreciate it. And the people who listen, man, it means a lot to me, because this is how we learn and how we stay on the air and how we.
Absolutely.
And I really do. So thank those people for me as well. Like I said, I can't see who's there, but thank them for me. And I'm sorry if some of them don't like it. I know we get some trolls every now and then. I try not to answer them, but thank everybody for me.
Oh, dude, they can hear you all. And you're a good man, William Lunsford. We're going to do this again, I promise you.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, everybody who listened.
All right. Take care, my friend.
You too, bud. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Class guy. Class guy. You know what? You know what I like about him is he just lets the evidence speak for himself. He has his own beliefs. He has his own way of thinking, but he doesn't put it on anyone. I'm sorry. Ugh. Just a class guy. Totally classy. And we thank Duke and the rest of that Bigfoot crowd for introducing us to William Lunsford. Don't give us credit. Give Corns, the booking guy, the credit for getting this done, and for people like Duke from World Bigfoot Radio, who continues to recommend really high-quality guests to this show. Man, are we lucky. We are so lucky by that. Thank you, Duke. For doing that. Really do appreciate it, my friend. I swear to God, I'm trying not to yawn right now. I really am. Try and wake up with my Vicks inhaler. Oh, that's better. Finster, by the way, you definitely know FAP has that bumper sticker. You definitely know that. I'm sorry, Murray. I actually started eating healthy yesterday. Went grocery shopping, literally waited for my fridge to be empty, went grocery shopping and bought like straight health food. Because old Davey wants to pare down some pounds here. Hi, Elaine Millard. How are you? Welcome. Better late than ever. Yeah, so here I am, just trying to get a little bit more healthy, you know. All right, big thank you to everyone who donated a super chat tonight. We really appreciate it. Thanks for all the love with the thumbs up, thumbs down, and our new subscribers. Here we go, everyone. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We do really appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to say hello to everyone tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We also want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button, our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Shows. Speaking of the news, let's rock and roll. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the downright awesome and historic. For the first time in history, humankind has taken a flight on another planet. Millions of miles from Earth, on an alien world with a wisp-thin atmosphere, a tiny helicopter rose into the air, hovered for 39 seconds, then gently touched back down on the surface of Mars. The historic flight is a tremendous feat of engineers and a marvelous display of as the aircraft is named Ingenuity. Attached to the robot is a piece of fabric from the wing of the Wright brothers' first aircraft, an emblem of humanity's desire to take to the skies. And yet, when pictures of Ingenuity came across, it just looked magnificent. I don't know if you saw this or not, but it was incredible. Absolutely incredible. You know, NASA, I don't care what you think of NASA or the space program or anything. I am geeked up about this. I really am geeked up about this. Why? Because this is historic. Sure, there may be aliens up there. Sure, we maybe only got to see a downward view of the camera, since apparently there are no other cameras on it, at least that they're showing us. But this is huge. This is absolutely huge that someone here on Earth, controlling a joystick, much like you'd play a video game, is literally flying a helicopter on Mars. That is huge. Mimi Young, the Ingenuity project manager at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, said afterwards at a press conference that the team will instruct the helicopter to make more daring flights as time moves on. The Ingenuity mission is what NASA calls a technology demonstration, and it has been allotted just 30 Martian sols, or the equivalent to 31 Earth days, to do its work. So the team is going all out. By the 5th flight, it will get that far. We are going to take very bold flights and take risks, said Ung. Why shouldn't they? I want to see this. I hope they release it all. Even the ones where they catch weird aliens looking at it. Maybe some kid alien waving up at that helicopter, because kids wave at everything. It's just amazing. I'm geeked up about this. I really am. Sad news here. And this is actually truly sad. One of our former guests of this show has passed away. Susan Shepard was a fixture on WTAP's Daybreak for more than 20 years. She was also an astrologer and an expert in the paranormal. Well, Shepard, who appeared on this show last year, died at her home on Monday from liver cancer. The website Haunted Parkersburg Ghost Tours, of which she was the founder of, describes her life as a lifelong paranormal investigator, researcher, and psychic experiencer. She conducted haunted Parkersburg tours of several notable locations in and around the area said to be and have been haunted by ghosts. She was also the founder of the Sacred Way Astrologers and Spiritual organization. She is also a founding member of the West Virginia Writers, Inc. Her appearances on Daybreak focused on her psychic abilities, particularly in the astrology forecast. Arrangements have been made for her funeral in Parkersburg. And, you know, she was lovely on this show. I got notified earlier today about her passing from a good friend, Becky Sheehy, who let me know that Susan talked highly of being on Spaced Out Radio, passing away of liver cancer. And Becky actually posted this note to us saying, "Thank you so much for having Susan on your show. She was so thrilled. You really made her feel welcome and comfortable. I am heartbroken over this. She was one of my best friends." Becky, we're thinking of you as well. And sad news in the paranormal world as we lost a good one in Susan Shepard. Moving on, hey, big news from John Greenwald and the Black Vault. Now, if you're not following the Black Vault, you need to. On December 29th, 2020, Honolulu Police Department contacted the FAA to report an unknown craft. They believed, based on a report they received, that the unknown craft possibly went down about 300 yards offshore. A photo also circulated when the report was reported on by numerous outlets. The FAA created the below report, does not appear to have pursued this case any further. The report reads to Mr. Greenwald, from a Freedom of Information Act request, "This is an air traffic organization, Mission Support Services, Western Service Center, and partial denial, partial no records in response to your FOIA request dated January 4th, 2021, made under the provisions of Title V United States Code." Moving on, a search for records was conducted by the Honolulu Control Facility. This search revealed the following records responsive to your request, which have been saved and enclosed to the compact disc. Okay, one redacted copy of the mandatory occurrence report. We have withheld information. Oh, this is good. When they withhold information, you know we got aliens. Just saying that. And when Black Vault gets something from a FOIA request and things are redacted, you know we've got aliens. All right. So anyways, there were no records responsive to your request, which sought audio re-recordings and radar data because your request was received outside of the 45-day record retention period, and this incident was classified as a 45-day file. The FAA retention and destruction regulations are outlined in the FAA order, facility operation and administration. Oh, poor John. Poor John. And, you know, this is something this was a sighting where a lot of people actually caught this, whatever it was, on camera. It looked like a blue streak. And you know what freaked me out about this blue streak is last week on April 10th, That was the 7-year anniversary, of me seeing the UFO landed on the ground. And that blue, I've been searching for that blue for a long time, and that blue on that photo is the exact same blue I saw 150 yards away from me. Freaks me out just looking at it again. Freaks me right out. Moving on, let's go to British Columbia here. It's a dark north side of Stanley Park in Vancouver, along the seawall. Beware if you're walking it at night, or if you're riding a scooter. A man riding his electric scooter in the area just before midnight Sunday likely didn't see it coming before he crashed into a coyote on its path. The impact, according to local police, who highlighted the bizarre encounter, knocked the man off his scooter. Officials say he fell to the pavement, injured his collarbone, but that wasn't the worst of it. No, these Vancouver coyotes, they're a little bit vicious. When the man was on the ground trying to fix his collarbone, get his moped back up, a couple of coyotes began to nip at him, biting his jacket and his clothing, said Constable Steve Addison. Addison said the man fended off the animals and then flagged down a passerby who called 911. BC Emergency Health Services confirmed paramedics were called to respond to a multiple animal situation on the seawall between Lumberman's Arch and the Lions Gate Bridge. I know exactly where this happened. The man was hospitalized in stable condition. The run-in is at least the 17th incident since December in which a coyote has bitten a human at Stanley Park. All the biting incidents since Christmas have involved adults walking or running in the park, most often between dusk and dawn. People in the park should not feed coyotes or leave food out for the animals, said wildlife officials. Anyone who encounters an aggressive coyote is asked to call the provincial RAP line at 877-952-7277. Yeah, them coyotes, they're bastards around there. They really are. They're vicious. It's because they're stuck. If you look at a map of Vancouver and look where Stanley Park is, it's a giant park at the edge of the city, but they got no place to go. They can't go into the city because of the traffic and the people. They can't go across the Lions Gate Bridge because of traffic, and they've got the strait right there going into the harbor into Vancouver, and they can't cross the water. They're screwed. They're stuck there. So what do? Now, this is a story that literally nightmares are made of. A woman in Indonesia was swallowed whole by a python as she checked on her cornfields last week. The woman's name was Wa Tiba, and she lived on Muna Island off the south coast of Sulawesi. She left home Thursday night to visit her cornfield about half a mile from her home. Reticulated pythons are common in the area, but it was actually wild boars that Wa had been worried about initially because they destroyed her crops. Well, when Wa didn't return, her sister went out to find her and found Wa's footprints, flashlight, slippers, and a machete. Well, on Friday, 100 villagers from the area searched around looking for this lady. What they found was a 23-foot-long snake with a very swollen belly. The villagers killed the snake, cut it open, and found Wa's body inside intact. Pythons are the largest snake in the world and usually only eat smaller mammals. However, a similar incident happened last year to a farmer from a nearby village in the same area. I tell you got to be careful of them snakes. Seriously. What a way to go. Ugh. Come on, that doesn't put chills down your spine? There is no bloody way that I want to see a snake wrap itself around me. No way. That's just freaky. A tour guide got the fright of his life when he spotted what appeared to be a ghost waiting at a bus stop. Of course, why exactly a spectral being would be using public transportation is anyone's guess. But Ivan Rubil, a tour guide in the Croatian capital of Zagreb, spotted that the person hanging around waiting for the bus had see-through legs. However, Rubil's job as a tour guide sees him taking Brits, among others, on tours of the city, including some of the haunted spots. This time, though, it was him that got a spooking as he captured the strange figure on camera. The 30-year-old took the photograph because he spotted two nuns at the bus stop and thought that they looked like bus conductors. So thinking he'd spotted a funny photo, he just got out his camera phone, snapped a photo. However, upon closer inspection, the apparition was revealed as a woman in a brown coat that was also waiting had transparent legs, meaning that you could see right through them, and the bus stop lines right through her legs. Since he shared the photo, lots of people have commented on the strange nature of it. Some people believe it was just a trick of the camera, but others think it could be something more. Ivan explained, so I uploaded the photo to Facebook, had one of my friends comment, there's a ghost on your photo. I didn't see it for at least 15-20 minutes, but then I saw it. For a few hours after it was pointed out to me, I was a little bit taken back. I've got some complaints that it was just my camera, but I've tried taking similar photos and not gotten the same effect. I'm still not sure that it's a ghost, but it's definitely fun. I think ultimately I do agree with the people who said it was a mistake of my camera, but it's not easy to explain. I don't usually believe in the supernatural. No, that's because you do a ghost tour. But I will have this evidence like this, I can't be so sure. I'm keen to believe, but I'm not so sure. I would say I'm agnostic. Agnostic has nothing to do with the fact that you caught a picture of a ghost, or at least of a lady who wears pants with white lines matching those of the bus stop. I really don't know. Either way, his caption of his original snap said, I took this photo because I thought it was interesting of how two nuns looked like they're going to enter the bus and check everyone's tickets as conductors. Much later did I realize that the woman in the brown coat near to them could be a ghost as well. You know what's funny is the only thing you see in this photo is the white line on her pants that kind of matches the white line on the road, but you can't see through any other part of her. Yeah, that's what's kind of weird. Oh well, let's move on. Did you see this video? A protective husband in North Carolina leapt into action to save his wife from a rabid bobcat. In home security footage that hit Twitter last week, the day began like any other. Happy Wade offered a chipper good morning to a jogger passing by his Burgaw home in the Creekside community, put a travel mug on the hood of his white SUV, told himself he needed to wash his car. Moving to place a tray of brownies in the back seat, wife Christy Wade made her way to the passenger side when a wild animal released a screech. Oh my God, oh my God! Happy! Christy screamed as a small bobcat lunged and pounced at her back on the driveway. Rushing to her side, the man grabbed the lynx with his bare hands and screamed, oh my God, it's a bobcat! Oh my God! Literally, that's the entire video. Oh my God! The jogger ran back to see what was happening, and a heroic Happy hurled the bobcat across his lawn. Get out! Get out! Get out! He screamed. This is like a Dr. Seuss book, really. And then, what does he do? Goes all Mr. America, draws a handgun from his pocket as the wildcat dashed beneath his car. Christy, watch out. I'm going to shoot that effer, he says. Get out, watch out. Watch out, it's a bobcat. The must-see moment has been viewed 12 million times online since it hit Twitter. Commentators were shocked by the sight. My guy just won every argument with his wife for the rest of their marriage, one user put. Remember that time when I pulled that bobcat off you? You take the trash out. Yeah, that's the way it's going here. Now, Happy ultimately shot the bobcat because, he had to. Once the gun is pulled, you got to pull the trigger. During the early morning of April 9th, realizing it had to be sick. I'm not happy that this happened. Happy's feeling sad, in other words. I didn't really realize, outside of Happy Gilmore, that there was actually people on the planet named Happy. All right, well, let's go with it. We don't take pleasure that I shot the cat, he said. I knew when I realized it was a bobcat, having been born and raised in eastern North Carolina and hunting all my life, that it's just not normal. In my head, I knew it had already attacked two people. If it had attacked someone else, I didn't do anything. Morally, it would have been bothering me for a long time. It was hurting my wife, and I didn't want to do it. Law enforcement soon arrived at the Wade home, and officers killed the cat. Its body was sent to the state lab in Raleigh, where it was tested positive for rabies. Oh, that's scary. All right. And you know what? I think we're good. Let's go to the thought of the day, shall we? Yeah, let's do it. Bumblefoot. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God! It's Thought of the Dave time! Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. If you could go Bigfoot hunting, where would you go and who would you bring? Let's go to post-disclosure. Never cashed in on the bet about cutting his hair if I was right. Montana Bush with Tom DeLong. It's because you have a crush on Tom. Eric with a K, where we are his fourth favorite show, everyone. We're number 4 in Eric's world. He wants to go to Willow Creek with Terry Top Gun. Moo, Tennessee or West Virginia, just me and my family. Ronnie, somewhere along the Chestnut Ridge, and I would take Greg and Dana Newkirk and their jar of Sasquatch pheromones. John, someone that runs slower than me. Me too, John. Me too. Flapcap and Ferret? Some people have some interesting Twitter names. Somewhere in Russia with the Dyatlov Pass woman with the sexy voice. Teddy Hadyiska. That's who it is. Captain Gnosis. Why can't we just leave the big guy gal alone? I'm sure that's what they want. Sarah. My pops. He had a sighting in northern Michigan. 13 Ballads. Lindisfarne Island, Boodles Bay, and likely won't see any Bigfoot, but there are plenty of other historical supernatural relics over there. Well, that sounds fun at least. All right, let's move on here. Let's go to Jeff. Bragg Creek, Alberta. I would take my Uncle John. Of course you would take Uncle John. Everybody has an Uncle John. And Jason Jordan, and it would be a star-studded affair because I would bring Merle. John, I think I'd stay in the Pacific Northwest. Plenty of Sasquatch sightings in Washington and B.C. As for who I'd take with me, he's gone now, but Renee DeHinden. Jamie, Montana, deep in the woods while staying in a secluded log cabin with the Swedish bikini team. Neil, let's go to Neil here. Where are you, Neil? Mount Katahdin, Maine. But he doesn't say who he wants to go with. Just wants to go to Mount Katahdin, Maine. All right. Nikki, we wouldn't be hunting. We'd be searching for Sasquatch. Mount Baker area in Washington State and straight up into B.C., Canada. Nikki, we know where B.C. is. It's in Canada. Thanks for the reminder. Wants to take Sue Wells, Troy Bacon, many other people as well. Kate Rogers, an hour in any direction except west from my current location. That's because you would hit the ocean if you go west, Kate. You'd hit the ocean. Stay away from there. By myself, because I don't know anyone who would go with you. Kate, I'm in BC. I will go with you. I promise. Jack, going in a couple of weeks. Gary the Dutchman, Harrison area of British Columbia. I would take Dave Scott with me. Who's that guy? Jim Goodall gets the final word. Not too sure where I'd go, but I'd take Dave with me as bait. Thank you to everybody playing in the Thought of the Dave. Thank you to Captain Shirk and to William Lunsford being our guest talking Sasquatch all night long. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone participating in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and Derek and the Snarkettes on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.